Oh, yeah, you're looking at me, right? I'm looking back at you. Get artsy, get ready, get excited, get fired the heck up. It's your boy BC Brian. Yeah, I mean, here we go. It is the BCX. But hold on, I got an echo in my ear here. There we go. Oh, hold on, technical difficulties. I think we're past that. Can we get rid of that echo if it's possible? There we go. All right, back at you. Thank you so much for joining the Campbell's Rambles episode 4. My opportunity to come face first against you guys and to tackle your questions. I figured out the echo problem. That was on me. Thank you very much. All right, it's past us. We're moving forward. It is a Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're fired up. Hope that I've got all of my self-inflicted technical difficulties out of the way and I can sit here, tackle a few topics, and then answer your questions. Uh, Reminder, the super chat is available. I don't know how I feel about it. I appreciate your patronage, though. It's available if you're into that, if you're interested, but I'm going to answer your questions nonetheless. You guys have sent in a bunch of great ones earlier today in the comment section on YouTube. Continue to populate this live chat with your questions. Good vibes only. Let's have some fun and let's get into it. Just wanted to say thank you again. I know we're only a few weeks into this channel. I say we like, we're partnering in this together, but we are. We're building an extended community beyond the golden arches of Morning Combat, or maybe the blue and orange. Beyond that logo that looks like Riyadh Season, but it's a sun, but it kind of looks like an anus. I love that logo. Oh yeah, it's right here. Beyond that, we're extending this community. I appreciate all of you. So many of you reached out and said, BC, I haven't checked out your content since the Rafe chat or the Rafe podcast back at Grantland, or since the Saved by the Boxing chats back in, ESPN.com days 10 years ago. Welcome back if you're coming back to the party here. I've evolved. We've evolved. It's still the same BS, still the same BC. Let's go. Let's get after it. I want to hit a couple topics off the top. One is I'm getting fired up minute by minute to talk about Beterbiev-Bivol part 2. Have you heard enough on this? It was a great fight last Saturday, but the idea of what this rematch could look like is getting me excited. I just recorded a podcast that you can check out tomorrow on the Brian Campbell Experiences Inside the Box with me and Rafe Bartholomew. Continues these topics about how we rescored it and all that. But what I'm looking ahead to in this rematch is the idea that when both go back to the chalkboard, the blueprint, and try to figure out how can we do better. I think each of them, Beterbiev and Bivol, the two best light heavyweights in the world in this era, are going to realize that they both need to do a little bit more to get ahead, get that judge's nod. Even though Beterbiev ultimately wins a disputed majority decision in a fantastic performance by both, don't forget that it was Beterbiev who told the in-ring interview afterwards that, he didn't feel like he boxed great. It wasn't his night. He says he only won because Allah chose him to. And then we look at Bivol, who has been so incredibly humble in defeat, despite all the, I guess, extended controversy. Although, again, it's not controversy. It's not a robbery. It's just a difference in opinion from the 3 men at ringside whose job was it to score this fight based on a lot of us. But a lot of you did reach out and say, BC, love your comments, but I had it for Beterbiev too. So what is this rematch going to look like? When will we see it? Well, the best news, obviously, is if you want to talk turkey, is that the moneymaker wants it. The money provider wants it. The two fighters seem to want it. So if we're on this stretch coming up of Usyk Fury 2 in December, get fired up. Of the possibility of Fundora Spence in January, if those rumors are true, get fired up. Of the idea that we could see Beterbiev-Bivol 2 in the first quarter of next year. Yeah, your boy BC is going to get jacked up. I think it's going to be a better fight than the first one. The first one was so brilliantly tactical, in which both guys showed such ridiculous stamina, gameness. I want to say warrior spirit, but like it wasn't a shootout, right? Really, if anyone was hurt, maybe Beterbiev was hurt in round 7 on that combination and the follow-up of flurries from Bivol. But ultimately, this was as extreme of a chess match as you could have. But they showed out just so brilliantly from defense to the stamina on and on. I think they're both going to have to be and need to be more offensive in the second meeting, which means we may end up getting sort of the best case scenario fight across the board that we wanted the first time around. I'm not going to complain about what we got in the first time around. I will when I'm emotional immediately afterwards. But after rewatching this fight, not 49 times, because who the F would do that? About 4.5 times. It's going to be so much better because I think both of these guys are so about what we want fighters to really be about. And that's the glory of this. It's something I love. It's why I always say, like, there's this new, fresh American spirit out there of these young guys, the five princes. They all want to fight the best in each other. Now, that's not really true, but it's largely true. We only had a couple of super fights lately because Ryan Garcia was really aggressive and willing, but it is a larger spirit. That spirit already existed in Russian boxing, Kazakh boxing, all name the country that you love. And I say we want these people to be all about what we as fans care about, but it can't be because this is a business. It's a cutthroat, dirty business. These guys have to be business minded to take care of their health in the long term, to make the most money that they can, to make the right decisions along the way. It can also be at times about different things, but I think to these two, it's really about, I want to be the best. I don't want any stone left unturned. I don't want there to be one guy sitting on the corner that goes, that Beterbiev guy was pretty good, but what about that first Bivol fight, right? These guys seem to have that old schoolness in them, that Sugar Ray Leonard side of them. That's just like, yeah, I'm in it for the money, the fame, got to feed my family, want to succeed and compete with this God-given skills I have. But ultimately, I want to win no matter what it takes. And there was that old school nature between these two in the first fight. And I can't wait to see in the second fight, will Bivol come out and be much more offensive from the start, knowing, hey, man, I survived that storm. I didn't just survive in it. I thrived in it against this bigger puncher, this monster. I will caution and say, I really don't think Beterbiev hit him with his best punches. I don't think he caught him with those Sunday shots, right? Those best lean into, because Bivol's defense was so tight and he was countering so cleanly and quickly that I think that's really what forced Beterbiev into a performance that afterwards he said he wasn't all that happy of. Why? Because he tends to break down and dominate everybody else. He couldn't do that to Bivol. Backed him up in rounds 10 and 11 and part of 12, but couldn't break through. What if Bivol says, look, before he wants to break through on me, I'm going to break through on him? There's a lot of potential that fight could be fantastic in the rematch, just the same, by the way, that Usyk Fury can. And as great as that first one was earlier in this year for all 4 heavyweight titles, now we're down to 3. That rematch with Fury talking about, I need a KO, forget these judges. Yeah, you're going to get the boxing fan in me fired the heck up. So I don't know when it's going to be. I got to believe first quarter in 25. But I think you're going to see an even better fight this time around because these guys don't want to take that gamble that it goes to the cards and they lose. Two very, in Bivol's case, 2 very close fights that could have gone either way. I think they put the onus in their hands and they go after it. And I think we all sit at home and get really excited about it and then come on the BC Campbell Ramble on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern and just get all giddy, right? All by ourselves here as we drink the afternoon coffee. Is there any pleasure in life better than the afternoon coffee? I've tried to avoid it for a long time because I don't want to be caffeine dependent and addicted like so many people in my life. But sometimes that afternoon coffee just hits you right in the feel hole. Put the fist in, turn it, lock it, release, and it just, wow, there you go. Anybody else out there hear me? I mean, holler if you hear me. That's my topic 1. Let me hit you with topic 2 off the start, then we'll get to your questions. Tim Tszyu's back this weekend, and I'm really excited. It goes down Saturday night, PBC triple header on Prime Video, regular, no pay-per-view, regular Prime Video to subscribers, 8 p.m. Eastern, Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando, and your boy B Dizzle over here, as you already know, it's going to be on the call. Brian Custer on play-by-play, me and Keith One-Time Thurman on the color, and then you've got the two-fisted duo of Jordan Plant and Claudia Trejos on ringside reporting and interviewing. So Tszyu lost his WBO title, I believe, earlier this year in that pay-per-view. Remember, he was supposed to fight Keith Thurman, the first pay-per-view for PBC in this Amazon history. 12 days before, Thurman pulls out with an injury. Fundora moves up from the undercard, brings his title. Then they have that unification. You remember what happened. Tszyu cut at the end of round 2, in which he really started to pile on and dominate Fundora, lining him up with those right hands, walking him down. And then there's just a crimson mask flowing in his face from there until the final round. So 10 rounds of that. Most people might go, hey, wanted this fight, trained hard for this fight, but how am I going to win this fight with this? I asked Tszyu when I interviewed him for this channel. You can check that out. I said, what was that like? He's like, okay, so blood thicker than water here. It's not a stream, it's gushing blood. He's like, I got a constant sensation of burning in my eyes. I'm unable to clear my vision with the gloves, no matter how hard I try. He said, I'm seeing double, and then the rest of the time I'm seeing blurry. And that dog that's inside of Tszyu came out and was like, woof, woof, woof. And I mean, that was weird of me right there. You'll look back and say, BC, that may have been the weirdest moment of this chat, but did I do justice to show you the balls that are inside that man? He would go on to lose a split decision in this bloody fight of the year contender. But the thing about when you ask him, do you regret not waving your hand and saying, Doc, I'm out of here. It's a no contest before round 4 because of the elbow came on the cut came on an errant elbow right on the hairline where it, cut men will tell you that one never stops bleeding. That giant vein right there in the center of your head. He also, by the way, could have pulled out of the fight before the midway point. Remember, a fight is official after the 4th round. I think even up to about round 5 or 6, if he pulled out, he would have had a shot on the scorecards of a technical decision. That warrior says, I'm going to go the distance, and he loses. To his credit, though, he was going to come back against Vergil Ortiz Jr. in a Turkey Al-Rashid card in LA in August. The cut wasn't healed. He had to pull out. He was going to take a fight at home against Erickson Lubin in September. Lubin got hurt and pulled out. So now we got Tim back again for a title against newly crowned IBF champion Bakram Murtazaliev. He's an unbeaten Russian. He's a guy who just went over to Germany earlier this year during Ramadan as a practicing Muslim, which means Murtazaliev, told me yesterday in the fighter meetings, he couldn't eat or drink or train all day, right? Because of the fasting involved. At night, he would have little pockets to be able to train from like midnight to 2 a.m. and then from 3 to 5 a.m., being able to take in a very small amount of food and drink along the way. And then his trainer was unable to get into Germany due to visa issues. And he goes over there against Jack Colquet, despite the history of boxers going on foreign soil in Germany and losing to German residents in decisions that they didn't deserve to lose to. He knocks out Colquet in the 11th round and wins the title. So we got an interesting banger here with Tszyu challenging Murtazaliev, even if you've never heard of Murtazaliev, and I get that. It's big to see how Tszyu bounces back. It's big to see what the future is for him when you consider the big names available right now at 54. Terrence Crawford, who has a belt. Errol Spence, who is trying to make a comeback and is threatening to fight Fundora, who has a belt. And then let's not forget about some of the other names. Jermel Charlo, the former the former undisputed champion. And we've got guys like Sergey Boachuk, who just had that fight of the year contender with Vergil Ortiz. You got Vergil Ortiz Jr. himself still unbeaten with that knockout streak that snapped, but boy, is that guy a player. So he's going to get a huge fight, Tszyu. And there's some rumors that if he wins, he may come back as early as December at home before setting up a big fight in 25. But what has me really excited outside of selling you this fight and, my participation in it is Coach Tszyu, Tim's Hall of Fame father. And if you don't know Coach Tszyu, you better recognize. You better call up YouTube right now and watch the Zab Judah fight. I hope you remember Coach Tszyu's final fight in 2005 on Showtime in England, defending his title against Ricky Hatton, where in a close fight after round 11, Tszyu decides to not get up off the stool in a war. Ricky Hatton wins his first title, goes on to his own Hall of Fame run. Tszyu would say after, by the way, that he was like imagining his future and his life and his kids, and he didn't want to die in the ring. So he knew in that moment he had too much. Even with 1 round to go in this close title fight, he was done. He's going to be at this fight on Saturday. And he said, okay, who cares? I care. The Tszyu family cares. Why? Because Tim Tszyu grew up in Australia. His Russian father, his parents together. They had a messy divorce. Dad moves back to Russia, starts a new family. There's a bit of uneasiness in the family, but Tim still talks to his dad. But every time I interview Tim Tszyu, we always ask him about his dad. And we always say, is he giving you advice? Blah, 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 blah. He said, no, I talked to my dad. We're cool. But you got the feeling that while not estranged, they weren't connected, right? And it was always like, does your dad give you advice? Well, yeah, but, it always seemed to be a distance there. What Tim told me was awesome. He said after the fight with Fundora, his dad calls him up and was just livid that fight went on, right? That Tim fought through that. And Tim just ultimately tells his dad, like, I'm a dog. This is what I do. There was no chance I was going to bow out of that fight. No matter what, I was going to try to figure it out. And by the way, he almost beat Fundora. He lost by split decision. Dad must have recognized that kid needed him. So the two of them go on a trip to Thailand this spring. They train together, they live together, they talk, they get deep, they reconnect. And I said, Tim, when was the last time your dad had been at one of your fights, if ever? He says, only my pro debut back in 2016 in Sydney. What's cool is how Tim said it. He said, look, my dad's not coming back, and he might walk him to the ring. He won't be in his corner, I don't think, although Tim's cut man is not going to make the trip. So his brother Nikita, who's a boxer himself, may have to be the cut man in there on Saturday. Developing story right there. But he said, my dad's going to come back and be the dad, not the Hall of Fame fighter. He's going to come back and watch me fight. I love that dynamic. I love what's going on here. Kostya Tszyu was an absolute badass. He was a better boxer than Tim, right? He was the dual threat. He can bang at 140, but he can box. Tim's a little bit different, but Tim's getting a lot better very fast. He seems to get better each fight. And I just love the way he has dealt with this loss and almost has received the biggest moral victory that you can in the sport, because so many people are respecting him and almost not bowing down to him, but one day people are going to see him in a Las Vegas casino and they're going to Campbell that guy, right? You know what I mean? They're going to do it like I do to Morales and Casamayor. And I might have Campbell Rocky Juarez once when I was really drunk. I got the picture over there with Raskin and Rafe to prove it. But, maybe that, I wasn't like a massive Rocky Juarez fan. But if I see you in the casino when I'm under the influence and I want to respect the balls you have, that's what I'll do. They'll do that to Tim Tszyu one day. I can't wait to see what happens on Saturday. Can't wait to see if he runs into trouble against Murtazaliev or he runs right through him. It's going to be an interesting triple header. But Tim Tszyu is a star, and he's coming on in a lot of ways. And I think that loss will somehow only make him even better. I said, what about the sight, the scar? What do you got going on? He says, I now have a scar that looks like V for vengeance. And I think that was his way of saying that's about what he's going to deliver moving forward. I believe him, but this is going to be a tough fight against an unbeaten Russian fighter. Check it out. 8 p.m. Eastern, Prime Video, Saturday night. Your boy BC doing what I love to do. That's it. Love you. Thank you. We'll keep this going. Topic number 3 is, PFL is going to have the big one on Saturday, and we talked about it on Morning Combat, and we will be back, as you already know, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, a remote Morning Combat episode. We do it full time now. We get paid for this. We're back. We're not back, not back, but we're back-ish, right? We can talk a lot about the Francis element, and we have, and we will, and tune in for Friday. But please don't miss. And I think this pay-per-view card starts at 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus on Saturday. We can't miss that co-main event, Cyborg-Pacheco. This is, you could really go as far as saying, this is the best female fight you can make in the sport right now. Is that true? Is that even true? Am I the only one that wants Rose Whaley 3 for the strawweights? I don't think Rose even wants that. Well, all right. So, it has such great potential to be a slugfest, to be an important fight if Pacheco walks through her that not crowns a new contender / player. Pacheco has been building her name ever since the kind of failed run with UFC and then losing twice to Kayla Harrison, then coming back and winning the $1 million and beating Harrison and then moving down in weight and winning another championship with PFL. She's been on fire lately. This has that passing of the torch crossroads feel among Brazilian female sluggers here. And it sucks that Cyborg has been fighting so long to just get an opportunity with PFL Tour and has been publicly stating her case, but it's here. It's happening. And nobody's talking about it. And I was supposed to have Chris Cyborg today on this channel, but things got in the way in Saudi and the interview didn't happen. But I care a lot about what this fight's going to look like. And it got me thinking back to a previous iteration of a fight like this. No, Pacheco not anywhere near in her career where Amanda Nunes was or is. But when that passing of the torch happened in a UFC cage and I was there, that was the co-main event to what? I feel like it was a December card. Was that the Jones-Gustafson pay-per-view that got moved from Vegas to LA, or did I just make that up in my head? Either way, I was there. One of the biggest pops and roars I've ever heard from a live combat event was when Amanda Nunes knocked out Cyborg, lured her into that brawl. And there was just I remember thinking, man, I want to see this fight again. I want to see it 50 more times because that first round between them was just magic. I kind of feel like we're going to see a fight like that again. Because the thing about Cyborg is even though she's evolved over time and become such a skilled boxer and can break you down, and she's got pro boxing fights under her belt, and she seems to be ageless and timeless, she loves to fight, and you can lure her into an absolute war. There's going to be a big slugfest between two of them that can bring it. And if Chris Cyborg was able to add this name to her resume, maybe it won't shine and stand out like some of her other biggest victories over many, many different organizations. But considering her age and how good Pacheco is right now, Like, this is real deal Holyfield in women's MMA. For all the talk, rightfully so, about the state of women's MMA and specifically in the UFC after those 2 fights were on the 307 card in Salt Lake City, and we all kind of reacted after, what do we do here? I don't feel like this fight can lose, really, but it's kind of happening, not off the radar. I mean, it's on a big pay-per-view, but everything PFL Tour has been doing this year has been a little bit off the radar. I hope ultimately that this fight lives up to the expectations. I hope you guys watch it. I hope that they get the glory they deserve. Maybe it means an immediate rematch because there's nobody else for them to fight on that side of the line. I mean, that is also the truth, to be fair with you. Either way, I'm fired up for it. I wanted to shout it out. I don't want you to miss that, what it's going to feel like and what's going on there on Saturday. Those are my 3 topics to start us out. I've got a bunch of fantastic questions that you guys have been sprinkling in all day that I'm going to chip through. We're going to hit your live questions as well. I'm going to post. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Mikey, for getting my back as always right there. Wow, MMA Sedan, appreciate you jumping in. Don't have to do it, but I appreciate you for that. He says, your favorite AEW program, worst memory from your 20s. What are you saying, favorite AEW program? Are you talking about All Elite Wrestling? And what do you mean by you talking about rivalries there? I don't watch AEW. I watched when it first launched. It at the time was everything that I was asking for back when I was covering pro wrestling, which is somebody rise up outside of WWE and combine all the powers of what's going on good in the world outside of WWE, from the indies to Japan, and bring those superpowers together. It didn't quite live up to what my hope was. And then I pulled out of that business. So I haven't been able to watch it. But unless you mean something differently, I got to pass over your first question. Despite me rocking this absolutely fantastic NJPW Los Ignorables t-shirt, shout out to Omar from Australia who sent that to me back in the day. Worst memory from your 20s. There's a lot of bad memories from my 20s, unfortunately. Particularly ages 20 to 25, when I was just in a dark groove, dropped out of college, dead end apartment, dead end job, dead end relationships, dead end everything. I've been up and down that story with you before. Is there one moment that's like rock bottom of them all? Yeesh. I mean, there's a few, when you're at that period in your life where you've given up. You haven't 100% given up, and that's good because I'm still here today because of that. And some people I know and love have given up, unfortunately, or tried to. But it was a soft give up. It was a nothing matters anymore, And there was a few moments where you're doing things and you're looking around at the company you're with and where you are, not just in life, but physically where you are. And yeah, those are the rock bottom moments when you look in the mirror and be like, where am I? How did I get here? It was a string of really bad decisions that I think, at least in my case, mixed perfectly / imperfectly with undiagnosed depression and anxiety, stuff that I really didn't figure out until my 40s, to be fair. But yeah, there's a lot of moments. That's why I have a lot of heart for people that are in that spot. It doesn't matter what age you are, people that sort of hit that crossroads of like, man, life didn't end up the way I wanted to or expected. Sometimes we are, as I like to say, complicit in our own downfall. Not that we willed that to happen because we wanted to get to that end game. It was just sort of like we had nowhere else to go or didn't know how to get ahead. Yeah, I've been there. I know that. But don't give up. Don't ever give up. Because it is never too late for anything. And I really mean that. Like, it really is never too late to get up, stand up, and say, no, this ends right here. I'm going to walk in that direction now. And as I like to, regularly say, you don't need to know how to get there. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep making safe and sound and healthy decisions. And you'll be amazed at how things start opening up in your life over time. I mean that. I think life was meant, regardless of whatever you believe on a religious connection or anything like that, and we can all believe whatever works for us at the end of the day. That's really my belief on that. I believe that we were meant to be happy and meant to take the gifts that we were given and put them in full bloom, to not just bless ourselves, but to bless others, So if you're hurting right now, if you're in that spot, it's not over. It's never over. All right. Ever. So let's keep this show going. Thank you. All right. Thank you, dude. The Wonginator, the Wong man, my guy, Alan W, is an MVP right there. Alan, how often do I play Fortnite? If you ask my wife, she would say 24/7. I don't know if I'm proud of that. If you ask my kids, I do. I will. Do I play it every day? Right now, no. As recently as a couple months ago, yeah, I'm playing every day. I'd say I'm a 4 to 5 day per week guy right now, about it's a good end of the evening, come down type of thing, right? Before you're angling towards sleep. I got the records playing. What do I want to do? Do I want to watch 90s NBA on the YouTube, if I'm not hanging out with the family, or do I want to play some Fortnite? It just works for me. It reminds me of those shooter games from the early to mid 2000s, they're still around today, the Call of Duty, the whatever, all those that we all used to play, and some of it, a lot of us still do. But I guess maybe, even though I'm really against the supernatural side of Fortnite, the comic book side of it, right now there's like a spooky Halloween vibe going on. There's all this magic and BS. Give me the old school. You got a gun. That's what kids always say. Like, what do you want to do? The strategy. I go, here's my strategy, kids. I'm going to get a gun and I'm going to eliminate people, whatever it takes. All right. I'm old school like that. I used to be a no-build guy exclusively, Alan W., because I would hate the way my kids would not play me straight up like a man, and they'd always be trying to box me in, literally, right, with the walls and all that BS. I finally got over that when my neighbor, shout out to Jason, challenged me. He's like, you don't play build? And I took that as an affront. I said, well, maybe I can get back into it. And I raised my build rank, my ranked build and zero build up to, this might embarrass me to say this publicly, but up to like platinum, I think. Yeah, platinum levels. I probably play it too much. And I get these weird friend requests from some people. Could be some of you trying to be a nice guy, but then people are talking to me and I'm like, I'm not into the headset thing. All right. I'm shutting that off. All right. I'm here to play. I'm here to win. All right. I got a competition problem at times, right? That's what it is. But yeah, I'm playing regular. Alan, you play. Let's hook up. Let's connect the dots here. All right. I'm not going to put the headset on though. We're not that close, Alan. Okay. But yeah, let's do it and let's get at it. Let me hit one of these oh, here we go. We got it. Mikey's just coming at me with them file. Look at Dustin. Dustin just joining the team here and helping out. Hotel living for 3 weeks now due to the hurricane. Dude, I feel for you. I feel for everybody. I was just talking to Keith one time Thurman, who I'm calling the fights with on Saturday, and he St. Petersburg guy, and he's, was doing a lot of rebuild and cleanup and all that. Man, dude, man. He says, what's an acceptable amount of days to go for housekeeping linen refresher? Oh, wow. Thoughts on Alan Romulus. Who is Alan? Alan Romulus. What are you trying to set me up here for? All right. I have a lot of respect for okay, oh, you're saying Alien Romulus. I'm like, are you talking about some politician that I haven't been following? So I haven't seen Alien Romulus, Dustin. Appreciate the help and pitching in here. But I'm unable to give you a review on that. I don't know if I'll see it. Maybe I'll catch it on a streaming service and get back to you. But dude, what you're going through right now is rough. And my parents just went through that. They live in Northeast Florida. Luckily, their house only got a little bit of water, but they're 2 years removed from their house being completely flooded, and they living in a hotel for 6 months with 4 cats and having to get the house completely rebuilt. So it is I always say this, like, especially now. I mean, dude, I might be 50 soon. I'm 46 years old. I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, you know what? I want as little stress in my life as possible. I don't know how people do it living close to or living in areas that are sort of constantly bombarded with the threat of devastation, of the threat of not just like, oh man, we had to hunker down for that storm and then a tree fell and it clipped my gutters and now I got to pay to get them rebuilt. I'm talking about utter devastation. I know it's happened and it's been going on for decades, and people rebuild and the human spirit is strong. That scares the crap out of me. It really does. That, because you can't negotiate with that. So anyone that's going through that, I mean, I hate the cold weather more than anybody. I'm trying to figure out where's the safest place to live on this map. I don't care how cold it is. Just tell me there's no natural disasters and I can play Fortnite with LNW and not be upset. But what's the acceptable amount of days to go for housekeeping? I don't get when I'm going to be in a hotel room for a long time and there's the option of them not coming in. I don't have them come in. I can make my own bed. I could use 1 or 2 towels the whole week. All right. Am I a dirt hole and a dirt bag for that? I don't know. I know some people are like, let me refresh the scene every single day. I'm not looking to waste water like that and have people in my business. I mean, I just found out that you're supposed to tip the people cleaning your room. I've never even been taught that. Now I feel like a jerk. And Luke Thomas always makes fun of me. He's like, you don't leave a tip for those great people. They are great people. But no, I figured I was ignorant to that. I hope your turnaround will be quick, Dustin, and that you aren't being, that your situation will turn around, but that's got to be tough, man. I remember one time, it wasn't weather related, but my family and we came back from a cruise in Florida and there was a big snowstorm up north and we couldn't get out of there for like 4 days and we're stuck in an Orlando hotel. And then one kid got super sick and got us all sick and we're all throwing up everywhere and everybody's got diarrhea and you're looking around, you're like, how did I get to Armageddon hell right here? If you're in that hell, Dustin, things are shooting out of all your sides, just keep pushing through it. All right. And get a couple those wipes to clean up. But I hope you're going to be okay. But you definitely want to get that area cleaned if you're living in there full time 24/7 and not leaving. I'd say 2.5 days. I'll give you. We all have different rules. I think a pair of underwear can go 24 hours if you haven't sweat. That's a life rule I stand by, right? Other people greatly disagree with me. And then, we've all been there on high school winter vacations where you're like, I'm not going to shower or change my clothes the whole week. What are you going to do about that? Nothing, right? I know you've been there. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to hit one of these questions here on this because my goal is to get through this list of these great questions you guys sent up. Let's hear one here, Mikey, from at Rorschach6809. Is that your name, last name? Rorschach? Who does Dustin Poirier end up fighting in his retirement fight? Great question. Now, I did see DP. Does anybody call him DP, or is that weird because of the other DP? I mean, we've all watched those films at times, right? Pretty weird. I saw him on Ariel's show quickly. I watched a little bit of that, and he said, look, I might have 2 left, but it comes down to, what kind of offer you can get from the UFC and what type of fight. We talked about this on MK a couple of days ago. I do like the idea of a trilogy fight with Justin Gaethje because I do feel like those two, in this era of great all-action lightweight fights featuring great all-action lightweight fighters, the names I don't have to tell you. I do think, in particular, that first Poirier-Gaethje fight might be my favorite of all these great fights. I wouldn't hate if they came together on an action level where they are in their careers now and said, let's settle this. I didn't think Gaethje would get that head kick KO in Salt Lake City. But I think a bigger fight is Nate Diaz. Name-wise, I mean, what does it really mean? It doesn't mean much. This is the part of Dustin's career where you're sort of just cherry-picking on who's the other big name I haven't fought or what rivalry can I consummate and end and bring closure to. I don't really think he's in that title frame. He did really well against Islam. He fought his balls off. But that's got to be the last chance for a guy who has tried so hard, despite getting an interim title, to get over that mountain. But Dustin, you don't need to get over that mountain. You're first team Hall of Fame on all of our cards because of the great career and the constant, rebuilding and evolutions and revolutions that he's had. I love the Nate idea. I love the Gaethje idea. I would have been fine on another Chandler fight, actually, but Chandler's locked up and has a couple fights in front of him. I've gotten to the point, I don't want or need another McGregor fight at all. And I know those two feel like they have this rivalry that needs to end. I think they were just in Las Vegas at the same time and almost crossed paths. And then Dustin said afterwards that it would have been really bad if they had because of, what Conor said after breaking his leg in the cage in their trilogy fight about Dustin's wife who was there, which was really one of the all-time like dirtbag moments from Conor. He just lost, got injured, sitting down, Joe Rogan next to him. And, and he drops the equivalent of like, your mother jokes there, just talking up Mrs. Poirier over there. I don't need that anymore. I mean, Conor's in such a different place the more we continue to play this out. Is he 24/7, 365 in that question I asked Luke the other day on Over Under? I think he is. I think this guy is rock star to the core. I think it's only going to be really diminishing returns from here on out. Although Dana on Tuesday night did seem to like that Hooker Conor fight. Conor thinks that the third fight doesn't count, so they need a fourth fight to figure it out. We don't need a fourth fight to figure anything out. I like Gaethje. I like Nate. I like if you could create a name I haven't thought of in and around those action weights, those BMF weight classes, so to speak. I'm looking at the rankings now. Who am I missing? Who am I not thinking? I mean, if you brought a welterweight to the table that was small and like he hates Colby. He hates the shit out of Colby. At this point, I only really want to see Colby Covington in fights against people that hate him, that you can cheer for him to get beat, like Ian Gary or something like that. That's just me. That's just me talking. But I would love Gaethje, especially. Now, I don't think you need to put a BMF title on there, especially since neither of them are the current BMF champions, so that would feel gratuitous. But it really, to me, could have a closure feel of this great action era, like I started saying, like, look at all these great fights that, Alvarez gave us, Gaethje, Poirier, I mean, there's so many of the Chandler. I mean, there was just bang after Hooker, bang, bang, bang. Could these guys be the face of that era? I think they can. So give me that Gaethje fight above all else. Let me hit up another one real quick here. Let's go over to JWoo5Z1 says, what do you think is holding Tank Davis back from fighting competitive fights? He is always in fights. We know who will win. So this is an interesting topic because Tank's coming back December 14th, PBC pay-per-view, Houston. And Lamont Roach Jr. is in front of him. And Lamont Roach is a good ass fighter. He's a title holder at 130. He's unbeaten. He's got amateur history against Tank. There's that DC rivalry, although they're doing it in Houston. But to be fair, it's a city Tank hasn't tackled yet. Tank is like living and training in Houston these days. I don't hate that. Great co-main event, by the way. Great co-main event. The Fulton Figueroa rematch, the fight of the year from like 3-4 years ago. But what I didn't love about this fight was what I said, that it plays into this stereotype that people have had of why doesn't Tank challenge himself as much as everyone else from the standpoint of fighting bigger fighters. Thank you so much, Saul. A real, true gentleman. Thank you. Not from Chicago, from Louisville, where Muhammad Ali, the Cassius Clay, is from. Thank you, Saul. Saul's a working man, too. I see you on Instagram up there on the roofs and shit. I blue collar to the bone, all right? It does play into that stereotype with Tank that he's too protected. And I don't really feel like Tank doesn't want the smoke. If you want to know what the problem was, if there is a problem, in my opinion, was because Tank is dynamic, especially from a commercial standpoint, because he got that Floyd rub from the beginning, right? That was like, this is Floyd's next prize pupil and the face of the future of Mayweather Promotions, that he became an item, a brand, a destination guy quick. Now, to his credit, he's lived up to that and he's moved up in weight and won multiple titles. And it's not as if he hasn't challenged himself. I mean, look, in hindsight, that Ryan Garcia fight looks a lot better. The win looks a lot better from what Garcia did to Haney. And, you know, he moved up to 140 in the past and fought a tough dude in Barrios. And, you know, there's other Frank Martin. I thought that was a perfectly acceptable fight and a good ass fight on paper against Frank Martin. He went in there and he handled his business. But yeah, in this era of where the five princes are going, they're all slowly going up in weight. And Tank is maybe the smallest of them all. But I feel he needs to be more willing. And you never know what's actually going on behind the scenes with the negotiations. But to my point about him becoming so popular in a brand so early is suddenly he's a tentpole guy for PBC, like without question. You're planning out your year. You're like, we're gonna have Tank here in this city, have him there in this city, where sometimes it's more about what's the biggest, you know, event or feel or fight you can make. Like, I didn't hate when he fought Leo Santa Cruz, when Santa Cruz came, or Tank moved down to 130 and Santa Cruz came up. But again, it's like, you know, it's a big event, Alamo Dome, Halloween night, and Tank gives you a knockout of the year performance. But you got those same people going, another small guy moving up in weight. It's like, we just did this with Hector Garcia, who was a champion at 130 and moved up. And now we're doing it again here with the guy who beat him, by the way, Lamont Roach. I don't hate this Lamont Roach fight. I think it'll actually be interestingly competitive and interesting, but no, it's not going to move the needle on that same level. We want him to fight Haney. We want him to fight Teo. We want him to fight all these guys. Now, I actually don't know what the line is here for Tank weight-wise. I don't love that he made Ryan, you know, suck himself down, but it was the A-side privilege. He played that card. I just think in some ways he became a brand like so quickly where you don't always take those chances as a brand, because maybe the people behind you are thinking more of setting up, you know, your moves, your chess moves in the future. And also, when you are that brand, it's easy for you and your team to say, okay, if you guys from across the street want to fight us, well, you got to go out of your way to make it happen. We're not going to go out. You got to come to us. You have to accept our offer, accept our terms. Not everybody's going to do that. That's just the reality of it. Now, the presence of Turki Al-Sheikh could change that, but we have seen a couple PBC fighters, particularly Canelo, Tank, and Tim Tszyu, not be as eager to jump through the hoops that Turki makes you jump through to get those big checks and play ball. Now, the thing, you know, we've said good and bad about Turki, and I think right now there is good and bad about Turki. But, you know, one of the good for sure is that we get the big fights that we want to see, and the fighters get paid, and like, he makes you fight. Like, we've seen big names enter the Turki sweepstakes. Like, a lot of times we assign this to Eddie Hearn, who's on this run of getting, you know, his big name guys or his bright prospects beat. But in general, I saw Showbiz the Adult had a great clip about this. Shout out to that guy. Follow him on Instagram. He had a nice clip about that, where it's like Turki has almost created like the real test maker. You know, that like the sound drop we used to play on the Rafe show back in the day with Teddy Atlas talking about Loma. He's the test man. He's the test maker. Dude, you fight on Turki's platform. Showbiz the Adult was right. Like, if you're not up to that level, you'll get exposed. I believe that Tank is up to that level, but I'm also seeing where you're not going to jump through the hoops that Turki says he has to, because he's the biggest star in the sport in the other lane, right? You know what I mean? Canelo, biggest star in the sport, AJ, huge, whatever. Tank is this individual that can go to any city and sell it out against any opponent and move a certain amount of pay-per-view numbers forward. When you have that leverage, you're not always going to go out of your way to to do that. But I hope after this fight, especially next year where the business seems to be wide open, we don't know right now, like, our PBC fighters align with Turkey. Some of them seem to be. Pitbull fought on that card against El Rayo. David Benavidez told me himself he can fight with Turkey whenever he wants. He's got that deal worked out with Al Heyman. I don't know, though. I don't know what's going to happen. But if Tank goes into 25, let's say he beats Roach in December, and he's not looking for, at the very least, to fight, let's say Pitbull and El Rayo have a rematch, or fight El Rayo, fight Valenzuela. But you can't always make everybody fight on your terms. Come down to 135. Fight him at 140 for his belt. Like, that's what we kind of need to see him do. We need him to take a little bit of chances. We need him to get into a fight where we say to ourselves, I'm not even sure if he'll win that. I was hoping that fight was going to be Shakur Stevenson. It didn't work out. I don't know how deep they got into negotiations when Shakur was a free agent. I don't know if it was ever even a talk when you've got Turkey on the other side saying, Shakur, come on over to Eddie Hearn and here, and we'll give you Cordina, we'll give you William Zepeda. Maybe it would take a big fight like Tank and Shakur, where everyone's getting involved at the same table. But just like every one of you, I want to see Tank against the very best. I mean, it's hard for me to, every time I update my CBS Sports top 10 pound for pound, to have Tank lingering in the back end of the top 10, knowing that he's top 5 of ability. Without question, I believe that. But you got to push that and challenge that. I wanted Shakur to take a chance as a free agent and go over and fight him. Maybe even take less money, because I think Shakur at his point really needs that validation after kind of being booed out of his home arena and the slant that he was on. I don't want to see Tank as a guy who's just like hold and serve at a smaller weight class and saying, if you want to fight me, you got to come and bend to my rules. You want to see him evolve, because, like, look, how did Floyd get to be Money Mayweather? By being pretty boy first and fighting the best, by fighting Prime Corrales, by fighting Castillo twice, but it's like one after another. That dude earned it the hard way. Tank has earned a lot. We all would like to see Tank earn a little bit more and go after it. Yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, Mikey, hit me up. Let's go. Let's keep it going. What else do these people got for us? All right, MMA sedan back at it. Well, I'll drive an MMA sedan any day of the week. Got to recommend. And okay, so when you were talking about AEW programs, you're talking about, rivalries, fight series, a program. I got it. Pro wrestling terms. Got it. Yeah, so I hear this from everybody. So I work at CBU. You're saying MMA sedan, you want me to see MJF versus Bryan Danielson. I hear lately, see, what's hard for me is, I work with some great wrestling fans, Jack Crosby, Brent Brookhouse of CBS Sports, and I get, the 411 on the regular. And I want to get back in when they're like, oh, dude, did you see that Ospreay versus whoever match? Or did you see what Bryan Danielson's doing in this current run? And God, MJF's the best heel in the world. You got to watch these. And I do have to watch these. I owe it to myself, but I don't do it. And every time I try to go back and get reacquainted, and maybe it's because I'm so all or nothing in mentality that I get there, I turn it on, and I'm just sort of like, I don't know if I want to be here. Yeah, I don't want to be here, and I'm out. Maybe if I lingered a little bit more, I'd get that taste again. I'd get that injection one more time. Maybe I don't want that injection. I don't know. Here's the thing. I can't all or nothing things. I can't ease into things and be a little bit of a fan. I got to go for it. I don't have the time these days to go for it on the level of when I used to be watching wrestling from all over the world and ready on my podcast 2 days a week to tell you about it. It was a commitment that damn near drove me crazy. I should go back and check that out. MMA sedan. I got people telling me I should. But Vince McMahon ruined pro wrestling for me, right? When he shat in that hair. No, when he mailed in the creative so aggressively from 2016 to 2020 during times when I was so in for work purposes, for personal purposes, dad-son relationship purposes, I mean, when NXT in 2015 led me into realizing there was a revolution going on in pro wrestling, that they were doing physically some of the best work we've ever seen, right? The Kenny Omega versus Okada rivalry and matches are chef's kiss times 5,000. They're just the greatest thing ever. And this is a Naito t-shirt, by the way. Shout out. It changed everything. But, then you're watching WWE, watching hours and hours per week, and their storylines are going nowhere. Yeah, they may deliver in the big pay-per-view, but it's like the amount of effort you have to put in to really know this game. I don't like to know things on a not intimate basis. I want to be intimate with all my fans. No, I really don't. I really don't, to be fair. Not on that level. But I should bite down though and watch what I'm missing, because I do hear lately that there's been, especially on AEW pay-per-views, that there's just been some epic damn stuff going on. So MMA Sedan, you just pushed my button. Let's see where I go from here. All right, hit me with it, Mikey. What do we got? From Mua too. Wow, always contribute. Thank you, Mua, for contributing. Beterbiev said he was hampered by the knee. Okay, so I haven't seen. Maybe he's done something I haven't seen yet. I haven't seen any Beterbiev interviews, except for in the ring, and I think part of his post-fight press conference. Maybe I missed it right there. Yeah, I could see that in hindsight. Look, that guy's a warrior, and he's not gonna, like he told me when I interviewed, or no, not when I interviewed him. When they interviewed him at the press conference leading into that fight, they're like, "Well, what about the knee?" You know, and he's just like, "If the knee wasn't 100%, I wouldn't be here." And I love that he took that stance, but the reality was he just had like major knee surgery, and he, kind of rushed back and did it. And to his credit, no, I have not given Beterbiev enough credit. I've been giving it all to Bivol because I did think he won in that moment and upon subsequent watches. But damn, was this a close and great fight? Yeah, Beterbiev figured out how to win that fight and put on that pressure late and made those adjustments and withstood some big shots and was himself. Could he do better if he's not hampered as much? Will he have the time before whenever this rematch is scheduled to get himself right? I hope so. I hope obviously that we see the very best of both of these. I could understand if that hampered him a bit. I think maybe that only adds to the larger amount of respect that I particular, but all of us need to throw at him. I've made the post story of that fight maybe too much about Bivol because I was so shocked at what he did and the way he carried himself. To quote Teddy Atlas, he behaved like a fighter. I mean, he behaved like a badass MFer, right? A real champion. So did Beterbiev. Respect. All right, hit me with the horns, Monty. All right, is that the Alan W? I might have to. You may be paying my mortgage soon, but thank you, sir. The most wasted potential boxers that are not so good human beings. Yeah, that's a tough category. Like you're referencing Edwin Valero, who was what, the southpaw from I think Venezuela, and he was 27-0 with 27 KOs roughly, and was being set up. He's a world title holder at featherweight, I think, and he was, or maybe 130, and he was being set up to eventually face Pacquiao in this, double southpaw tropical storm war. And then he Chris Benoit, him and his family, and I don't say that as a joke. And it was dark, and it was like, this is the reality of this game. Not only are these guys getting hit in the head for a living, but a lot of times the guys that make it this far are from really rough backgrounds, and it bleeds in. I mean, like I love Tank. Tank can't stop getting in trouble. It's part of it. This is obviously another level, but who has wasted the most potential? And, I mean, look, Adrian Broner's wasted a lot of potential. Luckily, he hasn't had missteps on the Valero level, but that's a guy certainly that I'm just like, man, I really think he could have been great. I still believe that. And people say, no, BC was just a weight bully at 35. And then you saw at 40 and 47, they didn't have the power. No, he fought like an idiot at 40 and 47, to be very fair with you. Even the split decision win over Paulie Malignaggi to get that welterweight title, to become at that time, 3-division champion. He would go on to become a 4-division champion, by the way. He fought, he never changed his style. He fought lazy. He fought like a blown up lightweight at welterweight and 140. So that meant not throwing as many punches, standing in front of guys, looking to just counter big. But when you don't have that power to change people the way you did earlier, and then, you're not going to move him on that level. And then eventually the outside the ring stuff caught up with him aggressively. And now he's still lingering, but is, a joke. There may not be anybody on that Valero level, although I really believe that Pacquiao beats him in that head-to-head. I wanted to see it like nobody's business. No, back then, what was that, 06, 07-ish? Yeah, I wanted to see that big time. I don't know if he ever would have made it on the highest of high levels. I mean, he already was a title holder. He knocked out everybody he faced. He was dangerous, but he was, he was a little shaky. I think that version of Pacquiao, especially that matured version, would have taken him. Now, would he have stopped him? I don't know. Valero was a maniac. Very few people that, how about Felix Verdejo? That'd probably be the greatest, like modern comparison. Verdejo was supposed to be that next big star out of Puerto Rico. He looked the part. He boxed so beautifully, could punch. Top Rank. He had Top Rank behind him. Nobody builds prospects into stars like Top Rank. And then once they dropped him after a rough fight and the motorcycle accident, and you hear rumors that, he's maybe not that good of a dude behind the scenes, and then he gets in trouble for what he got in trouble for, Felix Verdejo, and now that's it. Yeah, that's another one who, when we saw that guy coming up, and granted, it's in those type of matchups where you're propped up facing, a next level guy, but always sort of in a position to thrive and grow. Top Rank is such a great job with those Hall of Fame matchmakers. And there were times that he looked like $1 million. And it's not easy. It's not easy. A lot of these guys come from just backgrounds that, small town guys, factory town guys like me can't even imagine. And I try to respect that when you try to look at guys that are continuously making missteps, but then they can go too far. And it's really super sad to see. Oh yeah, you're trying to message me. There we go, Mikey. Yep. All right, here we go. I appreciate everyone jumping into the team here and helping me out. You don't have to do it, but I appreciate it. I got love for you guys. This is Dave Sandine, a good dude here. I see this guy pop up a lot. Maybe behind the scenes, he's very Sandusky. I'm sorry about that, but I hope not. Appreciate the content. Thanks, Dave. Right back at you. Appreciate you. What's your favorite ice cream dish? Do you appreciate a good banana split? Great question. So I used to love banana splits as a kid, and it was like my thing on a birthday. No matter where I was, it's my birthday, we got to find a place with a banana split. And I always looked at it as like a gratuitous item that you could only get on your birthday. And I think the romanticism of banana splits was only escalated by that fantastic scene in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when Napoleon is at the water slide park / arcade. By the way, showing that movie to my kids when they're 16 now, when they were about 11, amazing father-son moment. And, remember Napoleon was the little piggy with the hat and he ate the whole dish. That sort of helped inspire me on that. These days, I love a good waffle cone and I love mixing two flavors, often from opposite sides of the tracks to really make it work. So I'm a big black raspberry guy, especially when you can get ones with the chocolate chips in it already. And I like to mix that with something a little wacky at times, because I'm a little wacky at times, right? Think of the cover of Wish You Were Here, right? There's the regular guy and then there's the guy on fire. I'm both of those guys at the same time. But in terms of like a favorite ice cream dish, I don't really delve that much, except for this. My birthday tradition has become ice cream cake now as an adult, because, as an adult, it's not like I'm telling my wife, here's the 5 items I want for my birthday. We're adults, right? But I'm like, I want that ice cream cake. So, sometimes you get it from Ben and Jerry's and it's good for sure. But then you can go to other like local mom and pop spots that are on fire around here that in Connecticut, and they can make that. But I had a fish food ice cream cake from Ben and Jerry's once, and that was absolutely tremendous. I think to me that represents, gratuitous hedonism on your birthday, which is really how the American way, right? That's how we do it. All right, let's keep it going here. Thank you, Dave, for chiming in and jumping in. All right, let me get back to this list here. I'm chipping away at you guys. Let's go. Here we go. This question is from Disinterested3204. He says, BC, give me your top 5 best and top 5 worst Star Wars characters. Oh, wow. Now, I didn't prep this in advance. I don't know if I can go 5 each on each category, but let me try. The best character in the Star Wars universe. And let me put parameters on Star Wars universe. Like, it's like, how much of a nerd are you, right? And then I say that with love and respect. My nerd level is going to stop at the actual movies, meaning episodes 1 through 9. I'm going to allow Solo into this. I'm going to allow Rogue One. What else came out movie-wise in this vein? Did I see I feel like I saw an Obi-Wan prequel. Did I see that, or did I make that up in my head? Maybe some of those other series in there as well. Thinking Mandalorian, or did you watch the other one? Begins with an R. It was like a spin-off of that. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not reading the books, all right? I'm not reading the future novel. I'm not reading any of that shit, okay? I like some of the in-between cartoon series. I'm not a big cartoon guy, but Rebels, the one before that, the Clone Wars one, is a hit or miss at times, but can be really good. So who's the best character on this? I'm going to stand by this, even though he was a bitch as a kid. And you know what? He was a bitch as an old man, too. And I hate to say that. But are you going to tell me that Return of the Jedi, Episode 6, Luke Skywalker, when he goes full Jedi and dresses in black and shows up at Jabba's palace and just takes shit out? I mean, this is 5-year-old BC talking right now, because I did see that in the theaters and had a birthday planned around that and had dinner at the Ground Round in Waterbury, Connecticut, because if you go on Sundays, the clown is there. That was key. And I got nothing but Return of the Jedi toys for my birthday. And then we saw the movie. I think 5-year-old BC and 46-year-old BC, not that dissimilar, and just saying, like, all black Luke was a force to be reckoned with. He carried the good parts of the Anakin Skywalker lineage. I say the good parts because Anakin was a bitch underneath it all. damn, I never wanted to find that out, right? You know? I wish those prequels didn't happen where he's in, Naboo with Padme and, and crying and getting all, I mean, just guys, the absolute worst. All right, so we're going to go Luke episode 6. Han Solo from any era, including shout out to the ground round. If you know what I'm talking about, Luke Nocita, main card minute. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I hope they have those in Long Island back in the 80s. Han Solo in general, obviously him in episode 4 at the cantina when Han did shoot first, folks. I'm old enough to tell you that Han shot first against Greedo. And I even think like as an old man, when Kylo Ren sunned him, he went out on his shield, right? I don't have anything bad to say about Han or Harrison Ford in playing that role. So he's got to be on there. I mean, Chewie was loyal, but I don't know, outside of joking around with Luke, if I'm really that big of a Chewie fan. I will say that, boy, well, I'm aging myself. I'm just going to play the hits on episode 4, right? I was going to say old guy Obi-Wan from episode 4. Like you can argue that, an old Obi-Wan going out into the wilderness when all those Jedi are getting killed and he kind of just ran, right? I don't know if I fully respect that, although maybe he was keeping the Jedi spirit alive as Order 66 was taking people out. But that guy, to be that slick, to raise up Luke without really telling him the truth, to show up at Darth's Death Star and rewire everything, and then to fall on his own sword and be like, I'll be more powerful in the afterlife. You're damn right, that guy's cool as shit. So that's 3 of them. Let me pause on there for a second. Let me start on the other side of it. The worst people of all time. Jar Jar Binks. It's true. And I'm not like a lifetime Jar Jar Binks hater. It's comical to me. When I met my wife, she had this massive Jar Jar stuffed animal on her bed, and I always thought that was really hilarious. And then she was like, oh, an ex-boyfriend got me that. So why don't we throw that away? Yeah, let's throw that away. That was pretty hilarious. They're just the same. But yeah, that guy's the worst. That's number 1. Young Anakin's just all bitch. That's number 2, okay? Old Luke in 8 and 9. Oh, God, that's just the worst. And even though Luke sucks in 4, I mean, he's still kind of cool, right? So we're going to keep that in there, but he's in there. Rune Hako and the other dude from the Trade Federation, just from episode 1, just the worst. And Watto sucks too. Anakin with the Jedis. That guy's just the bumblebee dude that's just like floating around trying to screw over Anakin and his mom. That's the worst. So how many is that? 4? Let's go back to the top 5 of the best. I got 3 on the list so far, okay? Luke episode 6, Han Solo Forever, and old guy Anakin from episode 4. Qui-Gon Jinn from episode 1. Luke's wrong. Underrated. The dude definitely slept with Anakin's mom. There's like not even a quote. Why would they linger and hang out? Yeah, he's trying to recruit this kid and he's doing, he's going to. I love Qui-Gon was slick. He was cool. He was tough. He was involved in one of the greatest fight scenes in that movie's history at the end of, for baddest Phantom Menaces, right? As a movie, that 2-on-1 scene at the end is pretty damn awesome. I got to go with him at number 4. He didn't let me down. And he didn't necessarily fully believe in everything that Yoda was telling him. And as we found out, Yoda took his eye off the ball a little bit at times, okay? Man, I hate that scene when Yoda does the lightsaber duel with Dooku in episode 2. I remember being in the theater looking around at people standing up, cheering, and clapping. I'm like, Yoda's 5,000 years old and he's this big. I'm not believing that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to believe it. Not going to do it. You know what I mean? Not going to do it. Lando Calrissian, not only from episode 5, Empire Strikes Back in the Cloud City. Yeah, he had a decent role in 6 when him and the it's a trap guy, drove that big ship and all that. But I think young Lando in the Solo movie was cool as shit. So that's my 5th. Oh man, you know who I forgot? Samurai Jedi from Rogue One. Samurai Jedi. That guy's fantastic. Let's put that guy on the list too. The spin-off movies have a lot of cool people on it, to be very fair. They really went deep on like, let's create cool ass characters. I even like the Mandalorian. I even like that guy too. Who sucks? I mean, Padme kind of sucks. I'm going to be fair. Great Natalie Portman, fantastic actress. Love her work as a teenager in Beautiful Girls. Love it. Among many other movies. the acting in 1, 2, and 3 is just horrible. Like Lucas just out of his mind, just play like just too much power. I'm sure he may have even shat in someone's hair, Vince style, because I got just too much power. Vince drove me away from wrestling in 2020 completely when 2019 just gave up on the writing, and everybody else like, no, it's fine, BC, it's still good. The pay-per-views are still good. Dude, I'm not giving that BS that many of my hours per week when it sucks. Okay, that's the answer. I think George Lucas acted like Vince in episodes 1, 2, and 3. Get out of the way, George. Okay. You created this. Yes. We owe you a certain level of depth. Yes. But you can't wear a beard like this when you got the gullet sticking out. It doesn't look good. You can't, it's not, you're not going to give, we try to do that when we get, as men, when we get a little bit, when I put on the weight, at first it shows up right here. And the first thing we're trying to do is grow that beard to give us a fake jawline. So you're like, okay, at least I look a little bit thin when I look in the mirror. George Lucas's like beard is here and the gullet goes down to here. Stop that. But I read the first half of Frank Herbert's Dune, and I will finish that web scream, which is not a good reader. Man, you stole that shit. So you know what? George Lucas, is he a playable character in this? He's the worst thing about Star Wars, to be fair. Yeah, take that. All right, I've lingered too long on this category. I don't even know if anyone paid for it. They probably didn't, but thank you anyway for listening to my absolute BS disinterested. I got another one from this list here. Let me hit it quickly. Let's go over here from Jonah Far Out. Jonah Far Out. The white whale for this channel. Oh, let me plug in my computer. Sorry about that. Jonah Far Out says the white whale for this channel would be a wellness check with Bappa. I would love a wellness check with Long Island Luke as well. Almost had a wellness check with Long Island Luke last week, but our schedules didn't align. Long Island Luke will be on this show soon. Tune into the main card minute. I'm sure it's fantastic. I have seen him rip a few bongs on there. I have joined on there, but love that guy. Would have him on to talk 90s rock with me anytime. For a younger guy, that dirt hole goes to a lot of 90s concerts. I'm a big fan of that. Now, you want me to get Bappa. A lot of people say that. BC, just do it. Just get Shaba. I don't think Shab likes me, and he probably shouldn't, but I got nothing against him. I say that a lot. I like that video Shab put out about Shane Carwin. I don't think he was playing into that to try to, he was saying heartfelt stories from his time coming up and all the stuff that Shane did for him. And I'm sure, when you're on the come up, no matter what it is, and somebody looks out for you and believes in you, and is your brother on that, whether it's in the military or in your freshman dorm room guys in college, or you worked a crappy job and came up with the same guys I came up with at ESPN, I still talk to on the regular today as if we never missed a beat, because we survived together. So I really take that heartfelt offering there from Bappa and hope that a lot, it's like weird. I had this attitude lately of like, oh, of course we're going to settle this fighter's lawsuit. No one wants to actually see change here. Everybody just wants to get paid. Then you read these stories from Shane Carwin, from Vanderlei, from name that. I mean, there's way worse stories than that too out there. Spencer Fisher, right? But it's, we see this a lot in boxing. We just don't talk about it. And the guys that are that are really bad off physically in their 50s and 60s after giving all in their careers, and some way too much, right? From sparring gym wars through lingering way too long in their career. But it's like, we don't know how to deal with that. We just say, go over there. And, you're finally just kind of seeing your first generation heroes get to that age in MMA. And it's going to be sad. It's going to continue because this is not a sustainable lifestyle on this level. And I think what Shab said in that video is true in boxing and MMA. There, for certain stretches, and in many gyms, it's just that attitude of we're going to spar full on. And it does obviously make a lot of people better, but it's going to shorten your career just disgustingly. So no, I'm not going to get Shab on here unless he was willing. I'd chat with him. But, dude, that Reddit thing makes me laugh, but I don't wish ill on anybody. Believe me, at the end of the day, the only, do I hold grudges? I hold grudges, but not to hold grudges against people. I hold grudges to motivate myself, but that's about it. You know what I mean? I'll remember the slights. I remember executives that told me no, or agents that didn't pick me up, like whatever, you remember those, and hopefully you can pull your own version of Michael Jordan's Last Stand and say, I took that personal, but you got to let it fuel you and then let it out. You know what I mean? There you go. All right. There's a little 2 cents for you. But we'll see Long Island Luke on here just the same pretty soon, hopefully. There we go. I mean, it's not like I got much else going on this channel. This is what it's all about. Me hanging out with my friends and you, right? I mean, we're kind of friendly. Tu Chang's is a good dude. I saw his IG. He was just at the Oregon game, the college football game. Thank you, Tu Chang's, one of the best boxing fans I know. What do you consider to be the fight of the century? Great question. Johnson versus Jeffries, Lewis Schmeling 2, or Ali Frazier 1. And yes, at the time they were made, all three were sort of considered fight of the century due to the stakes involved. Let's not forget in Johnson versus Jeffries that Jack Johnson had become the first black, heavyweight champion and had waited so long to finally get his opportunity and was riling everybody up by his nature to be flamboyant, to openly date white women and do all these things where people were like, no, we don't want this black champion. So what do? We got to call Jim J. Jeffries out of retirement, the lineal champ who never lost. Yeah, that's got a big element to it. And that element was in play to some degree, but different circumstances and terms. Obviously, in Ali Frazier 1, it's the same through line thread, in my opinion, that built the baseline for why Conor versus Khabib was always going to have potential to be the biggest fight in UFC history, because it had that trope of former champion who never lost it in the ring against new champion. There you go. Ali Frazier, it had exactly that, with Ali going away for not being willing to go to the war in Vietnam and sacrificing that much of his career. And Joe Frazier becomes the new star in that moment. But the answer to this question really would have to surround if you went through it and what those circumstances meant to you. Now, Johnson versus Jeffries had race elements to it and definitely had like the new champion facing the old guy who retired unbeaten and never left. But Lewis Schmeling 2 is like World War II, Germany versus the US, almost a mimicry of what's going on in the political / war landscape, but in the ring at a time when boxing was number, one, along with tied for one, along with baseball and horse racing, the sport of kings there. A different time. But this is the ultimate, no matter who you are or where you are, you got to find that radio and turn it on and just listen if your guy did it. We haven't had fights like that in this modern era in either sport that demand a level of crossover attention that go not just far beyond sports. It almost removes the sporting element of the fight itself. Now, Ali Frazier 1 did have some of that. You not just had the new champion against the old guy who's coming back, or the old champion who's coming back, not the old guy. But you did have where people became Frazier fans because Ali to them was the devil now because he didn't go to the war. You know what I mean? That was a stance. That was a thing. It was very politically fueled at that time. So I would guess of these three, the most emotional, especially if you were living in Germany or the US, would have to be Johnson Jeffries, because it meant more than just boxing, even more than those other two matchups, in my opinion. It was like a war playing out. It was like a fight for freedom in front of you. And not to mention that it was a rematch of a fight in which Joe Louis was absolutely destroyed and knocked out early in before he was champion. Now he is the champion and has to fight Schmeling. Which one's the fight of the century? All of them. I know you don't want that answer. I'd like to believe, from the research I've done and the historian that I am to a certain degree in boxing, that Lewis Schmeling might have meant the most, like I just gave you that. But what was the biggest of the three? I mean, Ali Frazier 1. I want to say it's the biggest, but you can look up some of the Johnson versus Jeffries like fights from that era, 1900, 1910s, early 1920s. Those fights are doing outdoor stadiums that they built for that day. There was a stadium they built in Jersey City near the bomb shelter for one of these type of fights. Like 110,000 people there. Just like ridiculous interest. I love when you see those, this fight happened in Laramie, Wyoming, and there was, it was Jack Dempsey against this guy, and it's 94,000 people. They're just like, what? There was a stop traffic element across the board there. But Ali Frazier 1 was 1971, was that? And it was a swing in time, and there were there was celebrities on the broadcast team. There were celebrities taking pictures ringside. That had to have been the hottest ticket, because it's in a smallish arena in MSG compared to these giant stadiums I'm talking about. What was Lewis Schmeling 2? I'm not going to, I think it was either Yankee Stadium or Comiskey Park without looking it up. Those are the type of, venues they did. MSG being smaller, but that's got to be the hottest ticket in boxing history right there. So I think that alone raises the stakes on that one. And then you're also involving Ali, who is, maybe the most important boxer of all time, maybe the most important sportsman of all time in many ways, or character, or so many things. So if I have to answer two Chengs, I'm going to answer the last one, Ali Frazier 1. I wish if you would ask me on a different question, right? You paid $3.99 and said, BC, what sporting event would you be at if you could be at any? I would say Ali Frazier won. I don't think there's going to be a moment in sports history where there was just like that much anticipation building up for this one, like have it. And then on top of that, the fight lives up to the expectations. And, and remember that jumping left hook Frazier landed on round 14 that just destroyed Ali, only he got right back up because he's a freaking, yeah. That would have been something. All right, what else you got here? Devin Tuck, thank you so much, brother. Would you BKFC box a media member for 150 grand? No, I wouldn't. I almost did a sparring match on my podcast a few years ago. I work with a great dude, CBS Sports, Brandon Wise, my editor in Combat Sports. At one time, we did the MMA podcast together on CBS Sports, and we were kind of having this like running joke. We went to a boxing gym together, and we're working out. And I was like, let's spar. We'll make it part of the podcast. He had a lot of years and size on me. It was probably going to be an equation that would end badly. But at that time, I was a little friskier and willing to potentially do it. And I did put, I was almost ready to do that. But the reality is I'm 46 now and I'm not a fighter. And I'm certainly, if I'm going to do anything, meaning it's like, okay, BC, would you do a headgear 4-round, 3-round, fun amateur fight against, Aaron Bronstetter or whatever, or Sean El-Shadi or somebody I like or whatever, and it'll go to charity and it's this cool thing and everybody's going to do it. I mean, maybe, probably if I was 10 years younger though, and not now, but I'm definitely not going to do MMA and get kicked in the legs or do bare knuckle fighting. And the money doesn't change that to me. And I'm happy that at some point in my life, I did bite down on that idea that like money has a place and a role and it provides freedom in your life and opportunity and all that. But, it's not going to be the end all. It'll come and it will go. You got to know the value of it, but you can't worship it and chase it and make decisions only based on it. That, I've said it before on this, like, if you're like, BC, here's $3 million, would you have to eat shit? I'm like, yeah, I don't really want that. I don't really want to eat the shit. And I really don't want to make the money that way. Or people are like, hey, BC, why don't you go buy a lottery ticket? The Powerball's 18 billion tonight. I'm like, okay, cool. But it's probably going to ruin my life if I win it. And I'm really not going to be that happy that I really earn it. And that you could say, you say that now, but what about if the money's sitting in front of you? I don't really want that type of more money, more problems, right? I want to get to earn what I can earn with my gifts. Provide for the people around me, and then live a nice retirement where I sit around a fire with a beer, a cup of coffee, playing Fortnite with South Oregon Bird and Alan W, debating, who's the best 135er of all time. Okay, that's the life I want to live. No, the 150K, you can make that $1 million. I don't really want, I don't want that. I'm not going to do the one chip challenge with you. I don't want that. I don't freaking want that. There you go. All right. Let me get to one of these non-paid, then we can jump back in. Appreciate your patronage here, but there were some good ones coming in. Denique 407. We never got your opinion on the MMA Guru versus Nina drama beef. Yeah, I don't really think we should, right? I mean, it was lame. Okay, I'll give my opinion. I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, go fight, have it on, right? Us real media members here, but like, what's real media anymore? That's changed a lot. And I respect both of their hustles in different ways, but also both are ridiculous in their own ways. I'm not going to be having them on my podcast or be on theirs, but I don't know. Nina was kind of coming to somebody's aid that I respected the effort, but could you then be the obvious internet cynic and say she was doing it for attention, like Guru said? That also could be true, but also, fuck them, right? I mean, whatever, right? Just, they're in their lane, have fun, enjoy it. I'm not trying to, I before I started this channel, I wasn't going to do it. The right people talked me into it. I'm having a lot of fun and I love it. Apparently I picked the same name as Joe Rogan and Jim Cornette. Sorry, but like, I'm not trying to compare to anybody else. You know what I mean? I'm having fun with you guys. That's what we're doing. Okay. I'm enjoying myself. This job, this life that I have, it's insane. I'm so happy. The 24-year-old me, 25-year-old me be like, are you freaking kidding me? That's who you are these days. I try to remember that every single day and try not to get too caught up in rivalries or situations where somebody's going to jump you in person or, any trouble, right? I don't really want your trouble there. I want to enjoy myself. So those guys can fight it out. It was lame. Whatever. I mean, whatever. I mean, MMA media has changed so drastically and so aggressively that I don't want to go full on like Luke Thomas and be like, the world is falling. Don't get into this business. I don't know how we're all going to make money in 3 years, but I do think that sometimes at the same time, right? But whatever. things are cyclical. They'll come back. Right now, it's the generation of the, of the show me people, and some people are doing it better than others. But I hope there's a space for an opinion in people like me, and I'm going to keep working, and that's what it is. And if it dries up, I'm going to be, door dashing and driving that, whatever it takes, guys, whatever it takes. All right. You get one time around, make the most of it. From Giles Clayton. Wow, bro. Thank you. Seriously, you don't need to do that. Okay. BC, in your opinion, who are the top 3 boxers in no particular order in the UFC in the UFC today, and top 3 of all time? We had a similar question in recent weeks. I mean, it's hard because, like, sometimes you're debating how successful and flashy and fun are their hands in the MMA cage, but are you making that same debate of could they be boxers with that style in boxing? And most times it would be no, right? It's like one time I said, man, Amanda Nunes' boxing is just so dominant. Everybody laughed at me. They're like, BC, she doesn't box, she just throws a fake jab out there and comes back with a big right hand and crushes people. I was like, well, it's pretty effective. Okay, on the feet in there, you know what I mean? So it looks like boxing to me, but like, I love the way Max boxes. I love the volume. I love some of the angles and the way he carries himself. Max Holloway, obviously, that to me, he's certainly one of the 3. Not to play on the fact that he's fighting Ilia Topuria, and that was one of their debates. But yeah, Topuria is different in the way he sets up his shot. So far in the one-punch nature of his power and his knockouts that he's delivered, he's very confident. He's very dangerous, but doesn't waste a lot of punches. Angles in. Yeah, both of those guys in that matchup is a perfect example of what I love. I love the boxer that Dustin Poirier is as a southpaw there over the years, man. He's really worked at that. I love watching him box in the MMA space. No doubt about that. Adrian Yanez has great hands. It's always sort of a go-to example of somebody who looks like he could just walk over and transition over. JDS, dude, I always think Junior Dos Santos, if he had picked a different lane at the very beginning, could have very well have been a very good boxer if he had, really learned the head movement and technique and stuck with that, with the size, the athleticism, the natural power. No doubt about that. Cody Garbrandt for that window, for that season, for that, it was fun when he was on top. It really was. It looked like an absolute complete fighter, and especially those hands were just great. TJ Dillashaw, even though he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, I love the way he sets up his shots too, and the way he moves, and it's different in MMA. You can, you're going to do a lot of non-traditional boxing things, so it's a different comparison in that regard, but you love to see it. You love to see the fluid flashiness. But you know what I'm getting more respect for more and more is the other side of it. I'm always thinking offense. We're always thinking who are the best punchers, who's got the most power, the best speed, the best combinations, who can move their head and play defense and be able, Sean Strickland, say what you will about him, you gotta respect what he does in there, because he allows himself to stand right in front of you while putting that pace and mental pressure of having somebody backing you up to the cage, and you can't touch him. That's brilliant. I'm actually shocked at how late the boxing evolution in the sport actually took place. I feel like we're in the midst of it now, where you're finally starting to see more people lean on what we consider just basic stuff in boxing, of getting your head off the center line and, moving. It's not that all boxers have immaculate, head movement. I mean, we love celebrating brawlers who are going to go in there and take as much as they give and all of that. But the guys and girls on the elite level that are really starting to make it a big part of what they do. So you're already in this cage fighting, which is crazy, and they're kicking your legs, and there are all these things you have to look out for. But if you can make yourself harder to hit and just elusive and be able to do that in dangerous spots and zones, I mean, you have to, I said it, you have to, when you rewatch Beterbiev-Bivol, you have to really slow it down and watch the replays at times to see, did that actually hit? Because these guys are playing with margins that are so tight, and their defense is so tight, and they're opening up with just enough to get those punches off. And it's like, that's the very best it could be. When people are starting to bring that to the MMA space, it could really change the game. I would tell all of these guys to really amp that up. Taking less damage is the key to long-term, sustainability right there. There's no question about that. Thank you so much, Giles. I hope I scratched that itch on the level that you were looking for. Let me hit this real quick here. Let's go back over to this list at UFC 12355. BC, if you only have a greatest hits album, are you considered a real fan of the band or group? I love this question because there are some things that we all in our specific favorite lanes, sports fan, music fan, whatever, have like sort of these non-negotiable lines. Like I used to work with one of my favorite people ever, Jim Basquill of ESPN. He does work on CBS Sports HQ. Him and I used to host a ESPN boxing digital series called Making the Rounds together. We go way back. He had like hardcore sporting rules. He's like, if you're an adult over the age of 25, do not wear a sports jersey at any time. Forget at the ballpark. You know what I mean? I knew people that were like, if I see somebody bring a glove to a baseball game and they're over 18, I'm going to kick their ass in person. We sort of all have these lines. I grew up in places where like, you couldn't say we, you couldn't be like, man, you see last night the Yankees won, man, we kicked your ass. We, are you working for the team? Your uncle used to pitch for them? What's this we thing? Like, I'm talking about strict lines. Don't cross them. You know what I mean? People would get mad when I grew up if you loved a team that wasn't from your area. You'd be like, you're an automatic bandwagon jumper. I don't care if your grandparents live in Miami. You can't be a Dolphins fan. I don't care if you went to a Madrid game once. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I come from that sort of background in that regard. So, yeah, in the corners of which I do consider myself a music snob. Paulie D, thank you. Thank you. Consider myself a music snob. I came to my own self music snobdom in that regard, where I got to like, I was like everybody, listen to classic rock radio in high school. When you learned enough songs from a band, you're like, I'm ready to go buy their greatest hits, you know, because I know 3 of their songs. And then you get 12 total songs and you're learning the other hits. The problem with that, there's many problems, but most importantly, I found out you miss the storytelling of the art of what the band was showing you, their evolution. To me, an album, that's why I love getting back into vinyl so much, because it's a physical thing. It takes time. You got to pull the needle yourself. You got to focus on it. It's not background music. It's an artistic statement. This was a time period in a band's life. Sometimes you have concept albums that are the same concept in lyrical tone or maybe in genre of music, or maybe or aggression, or laid back feel, right? You're missing out on that. And when you pull singles off of an artistic statement and try to say, I know that band because of that song that I heard, you miss everything. I'm re-examining the entire decade of the 1970s over vinyl, and one by one finding bands like the Marshall Tucker Band, like, insert name, where I'm like, I knew 2 of their hits and thought I knew who they were. I didn't know dick. That band is awesome, and they flow through different genres, and they made all these separate artistic musical statements, and you watch their evolution and their maturity and their growth. Yeah, you don't get that on the greatest hits, and you're not supposed to. So I did get to that certain point in my early 20s where I'm like, I'm never going to buy or own a greatest hits record again. And, and sometimes you do want to break that rule, because mostly the only times to try to break that rule is, okay, I'm never going to love this band. And they may have 5 or 6 albums, and all of them are 3 stars or less on a 5-star scale. I don't know if I really want to own those. But as soon as I get into a band and really try, and then you listen to their best album, and you listen to their first album, and then it's sort of like, man, I got to hear the rest of it. I got to hear what they put out, who they actually were, because classic rock radio consistently lied to us by playing the same 1 or 2 songs per band. And, and a lot of times those songs fit in a certain context of who they were or the genre they were trying to do at that time. So yeah, the first thing I do is, if the rare times I'll buy like a lot of records, a lot, not a lot, meaning many, meaning like a lot of them. Like used to be more prevalent. Not now, everyone's into vinyl, so you can't. But like 5 years ago, you can go on Facebook Marketplace and some old lady will put 200 records on there for $50, having no idea what's in there. And you go through and you're like, holy shit, I just got the entire Genesis collection. I guess I'm into Genesis now. Oh my God, she had every Jethro Tull record. This is going to be fun. And then automatically, I'm a greatest hits record. I can sell that back to the store for good money. I don't want your greatest hits records. I want to know you intimately. I don't want to sleep with you for one night, musician. I want to live with you for decades. All right. Because I'm a weirdo. Thank you very much. So yeah, you're soft casual if you're only into greatest hits, okay? But I guess some people, as I'm trying to learn in life, look at music as just like another piece of entertainment. It's just on in the background. That's cool. Not me. I live for this. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, communicate with me, Mikey. What do you got for me? We want to thank at KO3000 for dropping in a sticker and a donation there. Thank you. Thank you so much. All you guys, thank you. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this, okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Over to Lazy Bird. Lazy Bed. Lazy Bed is early MVP candidate for the Campbell's Rambles week to week. What meal does BC cook at home that everybody loves? Not enough of it, or at all. So yeah, I'm not a good cook, and I get frustrated easily, and I have pockets. Right now in this past year that I'm on this eating plan, I'm cooking more than ever, but I am trying to stick to the same 2 or 3 meals and get them right and make them the beginning of the week. And, that's my lunch and snack or dinner for the week and just try to chip away at them. My family aren't eating those, but, there are times, gaps in the schedule. Wife goes away for a week for work or what have you, that the BC's in control. And I'm not going to mail it in. I'm going to try. I am limited in my ability to execute a plan on a recipe. I can follow directions. I just have no nuance. I have no touch. I'm very heavy handed. Like if you were my neighbor, you'd be like, man, BC's cool. I love him. But don't let him borrow your power tools because he'll break them within 5 minutes by accident. Yeah, I'm heavy handed. I'm sorry. I'm kind of like that. It's a flaw. It's a character flaw. What do I cook that they love? When it is a rare time that I'll jump in every couple weeks and cook at night. No, I cook. I think I cook breakfast good. I think I'll handle any form of a scrambled eggs, and I think everybody's happy. I did try to slip in. I had a period when they were about 8 or 9. I was regularly slipping in ridiculous items to try to fool them, and afterwards I'd be like, "What'd you think of that banana that I put in your eggs this morning?" Like, what? I'd be like, "What do you think of those baked beans I shoved in?" And maybe that was cruel. And maybe that's developed a reputation where I can't be trusted as a cook. But I feel like when I come to the table to deliver, every once in a while, I'll surprise them. And it'll be pretty healthy too. What do I have an example? I mean, the thing is, I always forget what I cooked and I give them a really ridiculous name and then everybody forgets about it. And then it's time to cook again and I panic and I don't even know what I cooked. But yeah, there we go. Sorry about that, lazy bed. You're not going to want me to cook in your house, okay? I really can't fix things either. But live chatting on Campbell's Ramble, it's organizing my vinyl collection. There you go, right there, right? But I do try it. Thank you very much. I cook I'm going to cook a grilled chicken with vegetables, ultimately rice, something like that. Try to spice it up a little, try to add some flavor and punch to it. I'm not too aggressive. I can't win over a lady by cooking. That's the thing at the end of the day. Luckily, I'm hooked. I'm hooked already. You know what I mean? Not shopping, no customers available. All right. Easy, fancy Mortimer. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, Reggie's been crazy lately. You're going to see that during, I recorded with Rafe today. You can see that tomorrow. Reggie's just trying to become the third co-host, just all over the place. I was covered in him, but that cat will do it for love. Alan W jumping in. He needs to be in every Rambles episode. He was just here before and then he got mad and he left. But he knows how to open doors. The guy's pretty smart. I mean, he's an a-hole, but very lovable. And when it's nighttime and that guy's done breaking the house and beating up the girl cats and he just wants to, chill, I'm his guy. He chose me and I chose him. All right. And that's not weird. Reggie Jackson is the MVP. Thank you very much. All right. Let me hit back on these. Mikey's got one coming. Here's Alan W again. Future live card reaction with Inside the Box. I think so. So that kind of came together out of nowhere. I didn't even know if I was going to do a live reaction because, to be honest, I was waiting to see, am I going to be on CBS Sports HQ after Beterbiev-Bivol? They didn't end up needing me. There was a lot going on in college football. I did have I've got columns to write, stories to write for CBS afterwards. So I wasn't sure about aligning. And then it became a last minute thing. And it became a last minute thing adding Rafe too. We were just texting and he was around. It turned out to be fun and great. And, I love working with that guy and bouncing off of each other. So yeah, I think obviously it's not you have to be a rocket science in understanding what I'm learning on a very basic level, which is YouTube, to realize that you go live, you're going to get a, better audience. You're going to get more ad money potential and all that. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It took a long time for me to get to this point, right? Because I was stuck in that mentality, like a lot of you, like, hold on tighter, guys. MK's almost fully back and it's still here and MK's healthy. It's just going to be a different MK. It's not the MK of old. We don't have two companies working together, pumping money into it and full staffs. And, there's no VOD right now in Morning Combat. It's a live show on Monday. It's a live show on Friday and it kicks ass. And sometimes we go on the road and it kicks ass. And eventually in 25, will we have our own studio again and a couch and do the things we used to do to some degree? Yes. And I have hope and, we got plans. But until then, it is a reality of what it is right now. And I'm trying to embrace that reality and to have Rafe back in my life on this level and share what we used to do if you weren't there in the beginning at Grantland or CBS Sports, or we had that Snapchat show for a while in 2016. I mean, we've done our shit everywhere. Okay. It will be on BET soon, hopefully. But yeah, it's fun, Alan W. Thank you for watching because that guy's fantastic. So good stuff there. Mikey, hit me up with something else. What do you got here? Paulie D, right? But wow, Paulie D. I don't know. Are those pounds you're offering me? I'll take them. But right, but high five back to you. Your top 5 wrestling matches of all time. I'll hit you, Paulie D. You paid for that. You earned that. Okay. Because even though I haven't been watching from 2020 until now, and even though I didn't watch regularly from 90 to 95 in and out, right? Or from 99 to like 04 in and out, and then 05 to 15. I mean, there's been a lot of in and out. It's like, it's like college, right? It's great. But I'm a historian. You know that about me. If I'm going to get into something, I'm going to dive all the way in. It's a sickness. I'm thorough. My top 5 favorite wrestling matches of all time. I got to go irrespective of ranking because I didn't need a couple more minutes to fully rank them because I care enough to care. But here we go. Steamboat versus Savage from WrestleMania 3. If you don't know, now you know that my last day at ESPN, March 2nd, 2017, I was lucky enough to write an oral history on that match. That was the last thing I ever did for ESPN. Read it. I love that. If you love that match as much as I do, like that's the first great match I ever saw. And I didn't know why it was great at that time, but I would rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. And it was the passion of both guys. It was the first match you can argue that was really mapped out move by move on legal pads for weeks ahead of time. And it's a 15-minute match, and there's 21 near falls in it. Damn. And I remember knowing that it stole the show as best it could from Hogan Andre later in the night. 93,173 people, allegedly the biggest pro wrestling event of all time at that point. And it still holds up today from just the grandness. In the card it's really like, because those early WrestleManias that I watched live, they don't compare to the great WrestleManias of today or 17 or, name your favorite, right? 30, 31, 30 and 31. But that one is the only one that kind of holds up, but it doesn't get there without that match. And George Steele played such a key role in that storyline and that match. That's on there. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada 1 from 2017 or 2018 is on there. And I've made the controversial statements in the past in saying that it's actually better than the second, third, and fourth. And I know a lot of people want the last one or whatever the last one was that I saw. Did they ever wrestle again? I don't know. But that stretch where they were in that series, the first one is it might be the best wrestling match of all time to me. And again, I know people like that third one more or whatever, or the fourth, whatever one ended that story for that time. It was a little grander, but I'll never forget what Okada 1 did to my imagination. That a wrestling match could be that physically great and entertaining. And so it's the most physically impressive match I've ever seen. When Kenny Omega does the backflip off the top rope over the railing and just, when you start working, those are like Shane McMahon WrestleMania moments and you're working multiple of them into one match. You know what I mean? And I say like Shane McMahon because he's going to jump off of something crazy and risk his life. There's like a few of those and they're in the flow of the match. Kenny Omega is the greatest pro wrestler in ring of all time. It's true. You don't want to believe it, but it's true. In ring, not on the mic, not whatever. In ring, just telling that physical story. And that match to me is perfection. Okay, let's keep it going here. BC. In this countdown, I'm going to throw in WrestleMania 24, the Ric Flair retirement match against Shawn Michaels. I love to find out after the fact that Shawn Michaels called that whole match and told Rick, "Don't worry about it. I got you. Like, just listen to me." You want to talk about telling a story? Beautiful. Orlando, Florida. Beautiful. Wish I was there. Wish I had been there. Was not a fan at that time, but I did watch that WrestleMania live, which is a lot of times I wasn't a fan, but I came back for WrestleMania. A lot of you do know what I'm talking about. I wish in so many ways Rick, had never kept going TNA and beyond, because to be able to literally say that was my last moment and that story they told and the performance. I mean, the bumps Rick took in that match too, going over the top rope. Damn. And by the way, he was better at like 55 than a lot of guys ever have been in the ring. That's great. I'm going to throw in this match that was the main event of NXT Brooklyn in like 2018. It was the SummerSlam NXT show that was at the Barclays Center. And it was a best out of 3 falls match of Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. Bebe. Mauro Ranallo owned that call and that match. And I was there for it. And I was in the way upper deck at a shitty seat, but I was there for it. The near falls in the 3rd fall portion of that and the story to the finish. And by the way, I was also present for one of those Gargano versus Ciampa of that trilogy. And it had that similar feel where there's the thickness of storytelling, of playing with your emotions like like an orchestra leader. That's where wrestling just numbs you. That's where you go, I don't care how lame this is. That is theater. That is art that they are doing. The Omega Okada storyline had a lot of that too, even though I shouted that out for the physical nature of it. This match, Gargano Cole, I don't know why. I just assume everybody thought it was the greatest match of all time, like I did when I was there watching it. And then I look, it's not even in people's like top 3 for that year. Or we look at the history of the greatest NXT matches, it's like down in like 15 or 18 or something. Like, really? The story they told, the ebbs and flows, I mean, just good Lord. It makes grown men suspend the belief of where they are. It's like the only other thing that does that as an adult is when you're at Disney. When you buy into Disney and you spend the money and you bring the whole family and you're there and you're like, you know what? I shouldn't care about this corny ass ride and meeting this character as they walk by and getting my ice cream cone, but I'm 7 again. They got me. I'm in Epcot Center eating the turkey leg, drinking a beer in different countries and eating foreign candy, and they got me. I'm on another planet. I'm not in the United States right now. They pressed pause on my life like only drugs can and put me in this other world. That match in Brooklyn did that to me. Beautiful. The other one, the 5th one, again, irrespective of ranking, I guess I would be an idiot if I didn't put Shawn Michaels Undertaker Part 1 at WrestleMania 25 on there. I remember at the time saying, I watched that WrestleMania, even though I wasn't watching the product, saying, okay, you can take my favorite match of all time at that point, Steamboat Savage, which came out in 1987, by the way. And you can one up it. Yes, that match was better. That's the natural escalation. I watched the greatest match of all time live, and I just watched the next one all these years later. You can have that. It doesn't affect me emotionally as much because I wasn't watching the product. I don't even know the storylines to this day that led into it. And obviously, a lot of times that's so much of it. The Savage Steamboat was the perfect match for the perfect time. It was a 2016 match in 1987 in terms of work rate. But even that isn't as beautiful unless you live that story leading up and the crushed larynx and Randy just being such a psychopath and Elizabeth being torn. I mean, it was perfect. I don't even know if Taker and Michaels one was as perfect, but they theatrically told a hell of a story in that ring, and it still holds up today. And the rematch is good, but the first one is, that's it. If you don't like wrestling, you must hate the last 15 minutes of this podcast. All right, let me run through some of these quick here. This one, oh, here we go. Mikey right back. Morning Wombat, a big MK guy. Appreciate that. Aren't you always asking the question of what if we change this name to Morning Wombat and dressed up as like sloths or something? You got some weirdness in you, but I like that. Thoughts on Sonny Edwards? Seems to be elite in terms of skill, but didn't have the power to keep Bam off of him. Also, any thoughts on Cameron Whitaker? I didn't watch the Cameron Whitaker fight yet, unfortunately. I hear a lot of people saying that Ben Whitaker was getting beat up and then he jumped over then he facilitated them falling over the rope and, leading to the technical draw on the scorecards and the fight ending due to injury. I don't have an opinion on that. Look, Sonny Edwards is a good fighter and he's cocky. Sometimes I believe, like, we all have like built-in biases. I still have that American boxing fan built-in bias where I see a good young bloke over there winning those titles over there in the UK, but winning their domestic-ish for Eddie Hearn and the fun fights, but come to the States or come to Turkey Vision, come to Al Sheikhville where they're going to really test you and we'll find out. And a lot of the guys, we did find out that they weren't quite ready for primetime. I like Sonny Edwards. He's cocky. He's got a great game. He did run into that buzzsaw that is Bam. I think Sonny Edwards beats my stereotype. He's better than I thought he was. He's better, but in terms, the skills are there. I don't know. I'm still going to have doubt. I have doubts on Aussies too. It's just the American boxing fan in me. I told you the whole Lennox Lewis story. We were like sort of trained to not trust people with accents from the outside that think they're penetrating the only country that matters here, the U.S. boxing. But, boxing is obviously so much more global than U.S. boxing. And I can just shut the hell up. But Morning Wombat, thank you for jumping in. I'd like to see where Sonny Edwards rolls off and bounces off after that. And I want to see Bam Rodriguez coming back in this fight, this doubleheader in Philly with Jaron Boots Ennis coming up. Interesting stuff right there. Let me jump over here and Alan, right back at it, Alan. Thank you so much. Need some sleeper boxing matches to watch, like Brewster versus Liakovic, Foreman Lyle, preferably bettered 70s and 2000s. Do you mean between those decades? I like that you brought up Layman Brewster against Sergey Liakovic from 2006, because there was a while where that was like the best heavyweight fight we had seen since probably Klitschko versus Lennox Lewis, and Lennox Lewis's final fight in 2003. Like that, this one, Brewster Liakovic, was like this sleeper heavyweight title slugfest where they both showed a ton of heart and there were these ebbs and flows. I don't know if it'll actually hold up in that regard. Foreman Lyle is sort of the ultimate like action fight litmus test at heavyweight to see guys get knocked down, get back up, continue. Yeah, that's so great. But there's so many great sleepers of fights that you forget about, or maybe they weren't wars. But here's one of my favorite fights of all time for the middleweight title: Jermaine Taylor against Winky Wright, and it ends up being this hugely competitive, awesome draw. And, they were supposed to have this big money rematch, and Winky made that horrific business decision, and we never got it. And soon after, Jermaine Taylor kind of fell apart after going up to the Super Six and all that. But when they fought, they were still in their absolute primes. And I just remember Winky, who was known more at the time as the jabber and the slick boxer, although he could be a man in there when he had to. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. Ronald Winky Wright was fantastic. But that fight, he won my heart because he stood in there against Taylor, the bigger puncher in theory, and fought with him. They had a fight in that one. That was at Memphis, Tennessee, that fight. It was like this forgotten fight, and it was a draw. But I remember thinking, man, that won't be in my fight of the year contenders. But the combination of skill, high pace, and tension, and the fact that the skill became action naturally, man, that's a sleeper. Great fight. And I was just talking to Rafe about this on the Inside the Box that'll be coming out tomorrow. But even though it's relatively recent, because it aired off of like prime US TV, it wasn't on like HBO or Showtime. But if you haven't seen the first Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Donaire fight from 2018, maybe 2019, I think it belongs in the list of, sort of top, I'm saying top 10-ish. I mean, it's going to be hard to make it, but like top 10-ish of the last 2 decades. I have to really like line them up and see where it would fall. But considering, who Inoue has become, and that last stand that Nonito showed broke Inoue's eye socket early in the fight. And, it was the only time we really had to see Inoue, what he's, he got up off the canvas against Neri, but that night we found out what he's really made of. And it was this back and forth boxing match / war. And there was so much damn heart. It only gets forgotten because it was the World Boxing Super Series tournament. And it might've been on DAZN at that point, but that, those tournaments were not getting the love and crossover attention that they deserved, because in theory at that time, and that was a time where we weren't seeing people crossing the street as much as they are now, and seeing the Turkey era now where seemingly anybody can fight anybody. Those tournaments brought people together from opposite sides of the tracks and forced them to fight. That cruiserweight tournament that Usyk ultimately won had nothing but unbeaten champions in it. I mean, it was the ultimate, like, okay, we're finally going to find out. But that tournament also attracted divisions that weren't getting major US commercial shine, that featured a lot of names that hardcores knew, but that weren't big commercial guys. So a lot of those did fall under. I mean, from that cruiserweight tournament, if you didn't see the semifinals of the World Boxing Super Series tournament between unbeaten Alexander Usyk with a belt and unbeaten Myris Brightus with a belt, and it goes to the 12-round split decision, it's a fight of the year contender. That's the mixture of skill and action at the very, that's a Beterbiev-Bivol type fight, in my opinion, at the very highest level. Shout out to Myris Brightus of Latvia. I know he would eventually sell his soul and desperately send cringe videos out to try to attract Jake Paul into a cruiserweight fight that was never going to happen. But damn, that guy was a badass in his run, in his time. And nobody loved cruiserweights better than Rafe. But Alan W., there's just like so many in between fights. They really just like, did that fight caught your eye enough for you to remember? I mean, I said it where I said my favorite trilogy, you know, outside of maybe like a Gotti Ward or something, you know, Holyfield Bowe, one step down is really Morales Pacquiao. If you didn't watch the first Eric Morales versus Manny Pacquiao fight from 2005, go right now, turn this off, go watch it. The first round alone has like all these sequences of madness in there. Damn, that fight was great. I mean, was that the last time Eric Morales was like a real badass? No, it wasn't, because he did fight Maidana with no business being in there and one eye swollen shut. And that's the reason why he got campioned so aggressively by me. So he fought like a man that night, but that was the night in the 12th round, the first Pacquiao fight, where I'm going to tell this story every time like I've never told it before, because you need to understand how big that man's balls are. Eric Morales up on the cards against a cut Manny Pacquiao in 2005. In round 12 goes southpaw for the fun of it and brawls with Manny and almost gets wobbled a few times. And then, you know, Larry Merchant would ask him afterwards about that. And Eric's just like, and laughs and is like, did you love it? Do you love it? Like, that's why I fucking did it. Because I could. Because I'm a badass. Yeah, that's maybe the last stretch of like the great, you know, I mean, I think that may have even been after, or probably right before, Zahir Rahim, the King, looked like a killer that night and you know, out puzzling Morales. And that was the beginning of, okay, Morales is starting to really get old here. But that first fight against Pacquiao, he was still king. Live it, love it. Yeah, so many, Alan. I mean, I can go up and down and you know, and go in the decades too. I mean, here's another one. It's a very prominent fight, but no one talks about it. A couple fights after Lennox Lewis gets knocked out by Oliver McCall. He has that fight. He's got Emmanuel Stewart in his corner now, and Emmanuel's trying to really teach him that upright, you know, the same style he taught to Vladimir Klitschko and extended his great career. He's really trying to teach him how to fight like a big heavyweight and not be in the punching zone, but still, you know, Emmanuel's going to teach knockouts and big jabs. And he goes in there against the very best version of Ray Mercer we have ever seen. What is this, 1996 or 7, Madison Square Garden. It's an all heavyweight Don King card, triple header of heavyweight fights, or maybe quadruple header on HBO. I forgot which one. And it's only a 10-round main event, but it's at a rocking MSG. And it's at a time where we still really doubt Lennox Lewis's chin, especially as American fans. Like, he's going to get caught. Bo, you can throw that title in the garbage and take a crap on it. We don't even care. We hate Lennox. And Ray Mercer was a guy who, you know, and he won a world title at one point, but he was always so close to getting over the top, and then something would happen. You know, Jesse Ferguson upset him, and you know, and he didn't get the Riddick Bowe fight. And Larry Holmes upset him that time, and he didn't get the Evander Holyfield fight. And it always sort of, Ray Mercer just missed out on really capturing his greatness. Remember, he was an Olympian. I mean, he was absolutely legit. But as a pro at the highest level, he'd kind of be wavy. Remember the Tommy Morrison fight when he weathered that war and delivered one of the most vicious knockouts we've ever seen? The referee should be hung for that. Ray Mercer had the training camp of his life for that fight. This is a non-title fight, but it's against Lennox Lewis, and the winner's, you know, getting a title fight. And he fought his ass off, Ray, and military guy, right? I mean, he just stood in there, and those two hammered away for 10 rounds, yet it was fought at a very high skill level, and it was very tense, and you really didn't know where it was going when they went to the scorecards. Put on Lennox Lewis versus Ray Mercer tonight. That fight is just beautiful. Ray fought his ass off, but that was the night that I said to myself, I wouldn't say it out loud, I wouldn't tell people, but I said to myself, Lennox might be about that guy. He might be about that guy. Thank you, Mikey, for getting my attention. That's what it's all about, Mikey. All right. Let's do it. Thank you for your questions, folks. Appreciate you donating to the cause here. Let's chip away. Let's go on a run here. Let's go on a run, Mikey, to close it out. Here we go. Corey Marlin, love that guy. Huge Radiohead fan, great music fan. Corey Marlin, shout out to the man BC. I am taking the leap and diving into Joni Mitchell. Dude, Corey, we could be hanging out. We could have been hanging out a long time ago, dude. And have been blown away so far. Which full album is the best to start with? Joni Mitchell is so brilliant because there's so many different genre-based eras within her career. And I don't love them all, meaning love. Like if I would never tell somebody, you want to hear the best of Joni Mitchell? Here, put on her early folk. I mean, it's brilliant, but I don't think that's what's going to grab you. You know, she had solo acoustic folk era. She had full band era. She had jazz eras. She had the eras where she's creating new music we never freaking heard before. But the entry album that doubles as her best album, and it just perfectly captures who she is Blue. And that's, that's not going to be a shocker of an answer because it's the most highly rated album she's ever had. But I remember putting on Blue for the first time. I always hated Joni because I'd always seen her in like music documentaries, and she's always smoking and she's always talking shit about other people, and she always looks like this old, artist that's just got a chip on her shoulder. And that's all true. But I didn't know in the end that she had GOAT capabilities, that she really, and you can argue, I can really argue. I didn't think I'd fall head over heels and need everything she ever put out there. But she's of that ilk. And I found that out the first time I put on Blue. And I expected it to just be a folk album or pop folk album for what everybody says about its greatness. Like, look, Tapestry by Carole King is amazing, but I don't think I'm going to win you over that Carole King is a GOAT by putting it on. I put on Blue, though, by Joni Mitchell, and was just like, there's an element to each of these songs that is alive that I don't think I've heard before. The lyrics are so personal and tell such a deep story, mixed with the Joni weirdness and the brilliance of her on guitar and all these weird chords and tones she's playing and tuning her guitar, all those weird ass, just creating new tuning settings. And Blue is just, it's so deep. It's just so like, it's such a personal confession. It's amazing, but that really only scratches the surface of the Joni experience, Court, because just as easily I could put on the album that Bronstetter told me to put on when I started my Joni journey. And that's Hey Jera, which was, I don't want to say her first dip of the toes into jazz, because really it was the album before, The Hissing of Summer Lawns, which is like its own genre, to be very honest, mixing elements of rock and jazz, but yet making a political statement at the same time. And it's weird and it's awesome. Hey Jera came after this like long road trip across America where Joni's really thinking of her thoughts, because she jumps into relationships with every famous singer-songwriter ever and is out of them as soon as she's in them. Her book is, I'm like, what? Who else was she not with that ever wrote a great song? But you can really hear in her voice and in her music stylings like a longing for something. The pressures had built up on her of record companies wanting hit singles and wanting styles of music that she just didn't want to play or didn't want to duplicate. Yeah, she put out the Court and Spark album and it was pop enough for everybody to get excited, but she's not going to do that every album. Hey Jera, she's like, you know what? I'm going to F around and like mix folk and jazz together. And also I'm going to find Jaco Pastorius out of somewhat jazz obscurity, even though by that point people are knowing, because he's on the, God, what is that album? The Pat Metheny album that he did. What is that called? Just listen to it. The debut album from Pat Metheny with Jaco on it. I mean, if you're willing, it could change your life, by the way. I can't look it up at the moment. Here we go. But I'll tell you ultimately that Hey Jera could change your life, Corey, just the same, because it's so aggressive in a new direction and the lyrics and all of that. But start with Blue. We'll move on from there. If you need to go really poppy, go Court and Spark, but you'll get there just the same. All right, here we go, Mikey. I'm ready. Pac burst through the boxing wall was against Ledwaba. Thank you, Alan W. Again, Ledwaba was the fight where Pacquiao was the late replacement. No one had ever heard of him. It's on HBO. Ledwaba is the respected champion there, the older guy, and Pacquiao just burst through him and burst through the screen. I didn't watch that fight live, but I'd heard about it. It was the Barrera fight for me in San Antonio 2003, where I was like, okay, I know Barrera because I'd watched the first Boxing After Dark card on HBO against Kennedy McKinney, which was a great fight. I'm like, Barrera's gonna humble Pacquiao. He's gonna dissect him, and Pacquiao went right through him, dude. Right freaking through him. Amazing. That early Pacquiao, amazing right there. All right, keep him coming, Mikey. Two Changs, always respect. Could Turkey's relationship with Ramzan Kadyrov create problems for Turkey in the U.S.? It's an interesting question because of the ban currently in Kadyrov related fighters and U.S. travel, which is why Tyson Fury can't come to the States and can't fight there. It's a good question. I don't know how friendly they are presenting. I mean, he was there in support of Beterbiev. I mean, I didn't like that they let him in the ring, like he was part of the entourage, and it gave feelings of impropriety for the scorecards, even though I don't ultimately believe that. Could this affect Turkey's travel to the US in the future. I don't think he'll get that intimate with him. I mean, but you never know. It's gross. It's pretty gross. It's pretty damn gross. I'm not gonna, it's pretty damn gross. But I don't even know how much I got to see Turkey really. I know he's had that card in the U.S. and in L.A. and I got to really see him commit and show that he's a force in the U.S. Obviously, he can make the fights that can make him become a force, but like, I don't know if I'm convinced he wants to be here full time because, he can go to London with the right fighters and do really huge cards. And I know he wants to go to Tokyo and Germany and other places. And obviously, if fighters are willing to come to Saudi for these cards, then he doesn't need to go. I would like to see him do a blockbuster in Vegas. And I know, I mean, it's like, well, you can already say he kind of has. He was kind of paid for the Sphere, but I want to see him on his own. But maybe we'll see him with Dana. We'll see. Let's keep the questions rolling. Chunky No Drunky, aka Kimmy's the best. Shout out to Kimmy P, who is one of the most devoted MK and MMA fans that I've ever met or ever talked to. So shout out to you. Live show in Vegas soon, please. And HBD to me. Happy birthday, Kimmy. Hope you're doing well. Thumbs up to you. You met fighters with MK gear on and put those pictures out there, and I appreciate your commitment to that. And happy birthday. Hope you have the best right there. Live show in Vegas. We were going to do that, by the way, just to let people know, for Canelo/Sphere week. And Luke's schedule didn't ultimately match up. We were able to make it happen. I don't think we're going to the Tyson one, which isn't in Vegas anyway, the Tyson Paul one, but I could see us back in Vegas for the next like really big card, whether it is boxing or MMA, and bringing Morning Combat there and going on the road. Like, that is part of our future. It will happen. It's just right now, as things are still fluid and in emotion. I know you've heard me say that now for 10 months, but it's an ongoing process. I don't know when it's going to happen now. It almost just happened, but I can't wait. It's been too long. We haven't been, live in front of the people really since London in early 23. I mean, we've been at fights and seen some fans and stuff, but not doing the live show event. And to some degree, I don't know. I don't want to say it's played out, but like, everyone's getting to the point, it seems, are rising up and having their own live shows. That the night we were supposed to do in Vegas for Canelo Sphere Week, Ariel had the big uncrowned, launching, and shout out to him. And I think Sean Porter's podcast had a live event. So, but I would like to do it again, even if it's three margaritas deep in the beer house or whatever. But we'll have to see what the future brings. But it's great to meet the people. It's a little overwhelming sometimes, but it's great to meet you, especially that guy who was passing out brownies at the Three Margaritas show, especially you. And then the guy who gave me the King Crimson Red record in England. Shout out to you just the same. All right, what else we got here? We're coming to the finish here, Mike. Mikey, let's go aggressive here. Saul jumping right back in after a long day of work, about to hit the roller items. Yeah. Tornado, Polish sausage, or the dirt bag cheese inserted one. What are you saying here? There's words on here, but to hit the roller items. Oh, the roller items at like the gas station, like the Cumberland Farms or 7-Eleven. Tornado, Polish sausage, or the dirt bag cheese inserted one. I'm a big tornado guy. If I'm going to get dirty in there in the Cumberland Farms, I'm going to hit the rollers. I'm not necessarily looking for the hot dogs, although sometimes you go in there and 2 hot dogs and a Slurpee-esque item will hit the spot and also turn your liver into trash. But the good news, Saul, is I just had another blood test, and my cholesterol, liver, and all those other bad area numbers are the best they've been since I've started this health turnaround officially in 2021, when I got diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But obviously the last 11 months, I've really been putting the pedal to the metal and stop fooling around. But yeah, those are the type of foods that'll get you fatty liver disease. But those rollers, man, I mean, I always say it, and I think it's true deep inside, Saul, whether you're in Louisville or in my heart. If they're going to give you the option to get the breakfast sausage that has the maple syrup and the scrambled eggs inside of them, along with just enough of the peppers and whatever else, BS is in there, chicken elbows or something, it could change your life. It's kind of like remember when Jed Meshew was on 20 Questions with me here, and he said his favorite fast food item at the end of the day, he's got to go for the killer, and that's the McGriddle sausage, egg, and cheese at McDonald's. And I'm not here to try to say that anyone here should eat that because it will kill you. but that'd be on my potential list of a final meal. You ever eat that thing? I mean, that thing is just, it's full death, but man, it's, it's a happy death. It's a happy way out there. But Saul, you got to pick your weapons, very, very smartly. Choose your weapons. Very, very. Giles Clayton here. Thank you, sir. Prediction for Ngannou versus Fajeda. So you were so nice to me here, Giles. I better give it to you. I do see a lot of avenues where Ngannou could lose. It's what makes it exciting. Luke and I Friday on MK are really going to put our, money where our mouth is at the table and make our official picks. Right now, I got to tell you, I'm still leaning that Francis gets it done. How much will he have to go through? Will he get wobbled? Will he get dropped? I mean, I want to see the first time he eats huge strikes, because it was not a regular knockout loss to Anthony Joshua. It was like a set you back years, drive you out of a sport type of loss. And to his credit, he's come back to the drawing board and training again for boxing and for MMA. And, the death of his son is, like we said, is either going to be a really good thing or a really bad thing for him in the ring when you add everything together. I still think he'll lean on his experience and the fact that he is a better striker in terms of technique and such. I think he can get Fajeda out of there, but will he have to walk through some hell? Right now I'm leaning Ngannou, but I do want to watch more Fajeda tape in the next 24 hours and really get a better feel of what type of challenge exactly. Where are the large holes? Can they be exploited in Fajeda's game? He's still very raw, but man, does he look good on the highlight reel for sure at 6'8", getting these head kick KOs and doing a backflip. Right now I'm leading to Francis there. All right. What do you got here? Tacoma Aroma, the best name on this chat, without question. This is the final one. We're going to wrap up shop, but I appreciate so much all of you out here. Most memorable sports game or event you witnessed live that was not boxing or MMA. Just a absolutely fantastic question here. And thank you, everybody else. I hope everybody got their question answered. If not, we'll catch up next week. Trying to do as much as we can in this short 2-hour window here that we booked for these. But so I was at that, probably the most prominent event I was probably at was that bloody sock game that we talked about. Kurt Schilling throwing the shutout there against complete game there against the Yankees in game 6 of the 04 ALCS, even though I wasn't a Yankees or Red Sox fan at the moment, just the gravity and the intensity. Remember that play at the end there toward late in the game when A-Rod got called out for knocking the ball out of the glove of Bronson Arroyo? Yeah, that was pretty wild. Or maybe that wasn't a complete game from Kurt Schilling in hindsight, but it was a hell of a performance with how his foot looked. But, I didn't have the emotional stakes in that at all. The emotional connection that I have had to live sporting events would undoubtedly surround the run that the 2000 Mets had to the World Series and the ultimate loss in the Subway Series to the Yankees. Even though I loved the 99 Mets so much more and was the first Mets team that I just truly believed in and loved since 88, to be fair, even though they had times between that stretch where they were good or close to a playoff berth or what have you, even though the 90s were kind of a dark run for them after the 80s heyday. I love the ragtag nature of the 99 team. I mean, you had Ricky Henderson leading off, mixed with the fact that they had that record for the fewest errors and the best defensive performance. And they were a better team offensively with the performances in 99 than 2000, but they didn't have that extra pitching arm. And they got that with Mike Hampton. And even though they weren't the same team in 2000, the year Piazza had, I still think he deserves the MVP over Kent or Bonds that year. I'm a homer, but I believe that. Carried that team. He carried that team in 2000. Yeah, you had Mike Hampton and Al Leiter and that shaky bullpen of Franco and Benitez, but which also could be lights out. But I went to 2 series clinchers that year randomly. The Giants series, the divisional series, I was at game 4. No, that's a 7-game series. This was game 6 when Bobby Jones threw the one-hit shutout. The one-hit shutout. Struck out Barry Bonds. I mean, just absolutely. And I remember walking out of the stadium, people were like, "We bring on the Yankees. We want the Yankees." And I was like, I don't know if we actually want the Yankees, to be fair, but if they're there, we'll see. But I remember when that last out was made and I had jumped out of my chair and fallen into the seats in front of me like a real a-hole. It was a few 18,000, a lot of Bud cans to the wind at that point, and then this giant lady behind me. And I say giant only because of the strength she showed in reaching down and picking me up off of my feet from the fallen chairs, lifting me up, and then jumping up and down and dancing with me for like the next 10 minutes as Who Let the Dogs Out, which became the Mets theme song for better or worse, largely worse in that 2000 run, was just blasting, over and over ad nauseum. was a great moment. I mean, it really, I mean, when it's your team and this improbable old pitcher throws this one-hit shutout. So then they go to the Cardinal series in the NLCS, and and they're starting to make me believers that like maybe they could go to the World Series and maybe beat the Yankees. I was there at Game 6 when Mike Hampton threw the 3-hit shutout and really proved his worth as such a key free agent pickup. And they clinched, and I had really bad seats, center field or home plate, Shea Stadium, all the way up. And, I had set a pre 9/11 record that game, an NLCS record for sneaking 6 cans of Bud Light in my jeans into there. Because, pre 9/11, you could get into Shea Stadium with like a cooler filled with vodka. No one would question you. Like there's some, like, but it was a lacrosse stick to try to catch a ball, even though that's a blatant weapon. And you can do some wild things. And, getting in all 6 cans, was a real victory until I drank too much and the Mets fans kind of started to turn on me for standing up too much like an a-hole. But when they won, I was so high up in the upper deck, though, the stadium swayed, and you were going to play the Yankees in the Subway Series. There's nothing like being there with the team on that journey. There's nothing like it. There really isn't. And those 2 moments really just won me over until, game 1 of the World Series when Benitez blew that save. And you're just like, yeah, they're going to give this series away, but we had a good run right there. I'd have to say that's it. I have been to a really good Knicks playoff game against the Heat, Game 6 in 2000. And they came back from 18 down in the 4th to force Game 7 in Miami, which they would ultimately win and go on to the Pacers series. There was nothing like, even though I wasn't a Knicks fan, being in that and being a part of them coming back point after point as the Garden crowd there's an intoxication level of when you're there. Obviously it's different when you have that connection, whether it's your college football team and you're at the stadium for the big game. That's what sports is. That's the greatest feeling. Those are the greatest feelings ever. And it's this community experience, we're all here experiencing that together. It's amazing and it's beautiful. And it certainly can happen in fight sports, although it's less, team oriented in that regard. But yeah, that's it. I can't sit here any longer. Thank you so much. We got to wrap. Everybody's been great. Appreciate the commitment to allow me to just talk in circles. Okay. I'll be here every Wednesday at 4:00 Eastern time. Hope that you will be too. Thank you for Mikey for holding it down behind the scenes. I try to get to all your questions, but the problem is I'm too long-winded. I ramble a lot. I had all